One thing that we got to do a good job of is be a resource to each other.
The way you answered it, the way you wouldn't miss that layup. You didn't attack out of here.
I got to do the things that I need to do to help us be successful.
We wanted them to be able to go to college. Whether you go to college on an athletic scholarship or not.
A scouting service is just being honest about what you see and the relationships you build with people.
To find the champion in the room.
Because you have to really commit to doing things up-tempo.
That's why as a team we can shoot 50%, because our post players are shooting uncontested layups.
Because we want whole, successful students, right?
And a skilled coach knows how to find that. There's one of them right there on the wall right there, Lorenzo Robart.
They take a dribble, get you laying in, bam, they're coming back here. Now your coverage is shifted over there and there's no one there. Today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about kind of what we call our space and pace offense.
While we're in here, get to know each other. All right, talk to each other. I mean, that's why you guys are here, right?
I want to get back to being a head coach someday.
We love to get teams with 13, 14 seconds on the shot clock.
I believe in education and I believe that it is important.
Everyone has to be on that same page, from parents, AAU coach, high school coach.
Attack! Elevate yourself. That's what you got to do as a leader, man.
Different matches ignite different fires. Okay, every fire is different.
Because sometimes you got to put your arms around it.
Coach K's running this practice, you know, they have LeBron, Dwayne Wade, all, you know, the regular crew.
Has he? Big time, son.
I got to do the things that I need to do to help us be successful as a unit.
We established that we'll pull in the big space. We established we'll pull in transition.
Wide runners, we want you running outside the three-point line.
The cool thing, though, that I'm happy to see is that we can all come together and talk about the game of basketball, something that we all love. So that being said, let's give a hand to the guys that put this together.
Appreciate all these guys for putting this on. I mean, this means a lot to me. First off, to be welcomed here and to see all of you all. I was talking to my boy G over here, and being this early, I was like, yeah, it wouldn't be too bad. It'd be about 5 people in there. I was wrong, obviously. Like credit to you all for coming here, being here this early. The first thing that we want to do is define network. The noun definition, a group or system of interconnected people or things. Like, we're all interconnected people, right? Like, there's some people in this room that knew each other before you came here. Like, there's some people that I knew before I came here. I know we met yesterday, you know, so we're all interconnected. All right, the verb definition is to interact with others, to exchange information, and develop professional and social contacts. All right, like anyone in here, have you guys used your network to get where you're at? Like, show me, like, raise your hand if you have. All right, so probably 90% of the people in here have used your network to get where you're at. And what I'm gonna do is walk you through my journey and how I use my network to get where I'm at. All right, so I'm from Evansville, Indiana. Anybody ever been to Indiana? Familiar with it? All right, Evansville, Indiana, southern part of Indiana. Nobody knows where it's at. Everybody knows where Indianapolis is. Grew up there, born and raised. Like Coach said, I went to Missouri Southern State College. And the reason why I picked that school out of all of them is because of Calbert Cheney. Calbert Cheney did go to the Evansville Harrison, but Chris Lowry, who I don't know if anybody knows who that is, he's an associate head coach at Kansas State. All right, me and Chris Lowry, we grew up together. Well, our families grew up together. Our families were really close. He was coaching at Missouri Southern, and I was coming out of high school. Me and his brother, we were in the same grade. We grew up together. I trusted him. I respected him. My family trusted him, respected him. I ended up at Missouri Southern in Joplin, Missouri. I had Division I schools looking at me. That's the route I could have went. Maybe I could have went the JUCO route to Division I, but because I trusted, respected, and believed in Chris Lowry, that's why I went. All right, so like that's number one of my network. I went to Missouri Southern. Now, on a whim, I went there, and I knew nothing about it. Very first year, we go 30-3. as a freshman. Like, that's the best record ever in the school history. Still to this day, we're actually in October getting inducted into the Hall of Fame as a team, and I'll be a part of that. And that's something I didn't envision at the time, but because of my network, it took me where I ended up going. I spent 2 years there. My dad ended up getting really sick, got cancer, so I decided to go back home. And again, another part of my network is going back home. When I grew up, my parents were in the community. We went to the YMCA yesterday and spoke to a younger group of guys. And one thing that I told them is, if it wasn't for a YMCA, I don't know where I'd be. You know, like those programs, like you're younger and you're going through them, and you know, you got adults like talking at you, you feel like, but they're giving you so much wealth and so much knowledge. And I think about the reason why I went on the path that I have is not only because my parents are great. Like, they gave me a great foundation. I looked at the young men we were talking to yesterday. They don't have what I had when I was coming up. But when I left my home, I had a YMCA to hold me to the same standard as my parents were holding me to. And I was appreciative of that. So anyways, I say all that because my parents were really instrumental. They were really active in the community, did a really good job of raising me and my siblings. And because of that, I could come back home to Southern Indiana and finish my degree and continue playing basketball. Again, while I was there, we went 47 games, I want to say, in 2 years I was there. Got my degree, met my wife, so on and so forth. Just a really good opportunity and something I didn't see myself doing when I was coming up. Like, there's not a whole lot of people that just want to stay home. And if you've been to Evansville, Indiana, there ain't a whole lot of people that just want to be in Evansville, Indiana for the rest of your life until you're there. But one of my coaches at Southern Indiana, Mark Hostetter, played for Southern Indiana, won a national championship in 1995 as a player, and was one of the assistant coaches. Well, he was a guard. He taught me a lot, spent a lot of time with me. And for all you guys, and I started at junior college, and I'll go to that next, all you coaches, y'all understand the sacrifice that we make to do what we do for these young people. And me and Coach Hostetter, we were close because he was a guard. I wanted to do what he had done, be a national champion, be a starter, be in the record books, all that stuff. But I watched him, and I was watching what Coach Hostetter was doing. My man was running around that campus, class checks, he's doing individual workouts, he's watching film. I remember we went to a trip in Florida and played a couple teams, and my man didn't eat. Like, it was days he didn't eat. And I went to Coach one day, I was like, Coach, man, take my sandwich. Like, I'm watching my man run around, I'm like, take my sandwich. So I admired him and what he did in his hard work. So I was saying all that, putting it all together. I get done playing, I graduate, and at that time, I'm 21 years old. Like, I don't know about you guys, but at 21, I had no clue what I was going to do. Like, because when I was like 16, I was going to play basketball forever. Like, I'm 38 right now. I'm like, I figured I'll still be hooping. He came to me one day, and he's like, Rags, like, sit down. I'm like, all right, Coach, what's up? He's like, what are you going to do? And I'm looking at him like, I don't know. What you got for me? So he's like, you know, I watched you, which is crazy because I was watching him, but he watched me, and one thing he said, he's like, you know, I think you'd be really, really good in this profession. And because of my connection with players and my leadership, whatever, he thought I'd be really good. So that took me on to, he got me connected with one of his good friends, and one of his good friends needed an assistant coach. Well, he worked at Frank Phillips College. He's a head coach. He had just had to get rid of his assistant for whatever reason. And within 2 weeks, he needed to know if I wanted to pack myself up, drive 14 hours, and get paid a stipend of $1,500, for the year, for the 9 months I was going to be there. Yeah, that's what my mom said. My mom and dad, I went to them, because at the time, they were in the YMCA, and there was a job for me to make $40,000, coming out of college. That's really good, especially back in, 2003, 2004, telling my age. But I sat my parents down, and I was like, and my girlfriend at the time, and she wasn't happy either. But I told them, like, look, I think this is a really good opportunity. It's something that I'm being pulled to do. I feel like I want to do it. They were like, you're crazy. Like, why would you do that? And I felt right about doing it. Again, $1,500, and there wasn't anything. And how many junior college coaches do we have in here? 2, 3, 4. My math is off. About, you can tell I spent some time in JUCO too. So about 5-ish coaches in here. Tell me, is there anything you don't do as a junior college coach? You do everything, right? You drive the bus, you do the laundry, you do class checks, you do scouting reports, you do everything. Like, you're on campus, meeting with teachers, meeting with whoever. And I did all that stuff for $1,500. And I'm not bragging about that. It is what it is. Like, we're all products of our experiences, right? Like, I wouldn't be who I am now if it wasn't for that. Now, my man Lou Godino, who was a head coach, did a great job for me. And he's like, hey, man, I know it's only $1,500. I'm putting you in a dorm, a private room, by the way. So I put the queen beds together. Like, I was living like a king in there. Gave me a meal plan at the on campus, which you're going to school right now, right? We're going to get you some new gear, first and foremost. She's got Nevada stuff on, which is, I don't know why she came in here with Nevada stuff. But now, I've already messed with her about it, but I wish you well. I know you're a grad student, 2 years left, so I wish you well. But you know how the meals are. Like, they rotate them joints. So the first week, the meals are straight. I can do this. And then, after that, it's like, man, I had this the other day. I know, don't try to mix it up and think that I didn't know that I had this the other day. So, but meal plan, I'm on campus, $1,500. My man Lou comes to me, Rags, man, you want to make some more money? I got you. I'm like, yeah. What you got? You can work the front desk of the rec center and supplement your income. I'm like, Lou, you know what you already asked me to do? But I was like, forget it, I'll do it. So that helped me out, made $4,000 total for the 9 months that I was there, and I loved every minute of it. Didn't sleep a whole lot, but I learned a ton. So anyways, he ends up going to Louisiana Tech, our head coach, as an assistant, and then I'm in limbo of what I'm going to do. Going back to my network, that's what we're talking about. I end up going to Vincennes University, which is a junior college in Indiana. A couple of reasons why that happened. Everett Sullivan, who ended up, he played at Louisville, then he played overseas. He ended up being the head coach at Vincennes, from Lincoln Trail. I'm from Evansville, Indiana, which is 45 minutes from Vincennes. He needed somebody regionally. Some of the same people that I knew, another one of my coaches at USI, Jesse Watkins, was really close with Everett Sullivan. So my network made it all work. I was there for 3 years as an assistant. Everett ends up leaving, going to Eastern Kentucky as an assistant. And this is the other part. Our network gets us in the door. But our actual work and what we do every single day gets us where to advance, or where we should be, where we feel we should be. And I say that to say, as a junior college coach, every single day I did everything I could to make sure that young men on our team had what they needed to succeed. Now, that didn't happen all the time. I fought with some of them, By watching Coach Hostetter and being who I am, I walked that campus every day, whether it was class checks. I met with our academic advisor every single time somebody came in, and we mapped out an academic plan for every single one of our guys. So I spent a lot of time with him. I went over to housing, and I spent time with those people. So if there was an issue, one of them dudes is out of line, what'd they do? They hit me up. I've had that number for a long time. They would hit me up and get in touch with me, and then I'll go handle the issue if I could. So I worked. So whenever it came point when it was time to give somebody else that job, I earned it. And I was, say, 27 years old, I want to say, at Vincennes University. And I don't know how many people have been to Vincennes. Has anybody in here been to Vincennes, Indiana? Nobody? Like, it's behind the times, let's just say. So for a 27-year-old black dude to be the head coach at Vincennes University, where they've had pros come out of there, like year in and year out, like that meant a lot. And again, part of it was my network, but the other part was the work that I put into it. Lou Godino, when I first started telling the story, was the head coach at Frank Phillips, who gave me my first shot. So because of our network, I trusted, respected him, knew who he was as a person. I knew this is the best opportunity for the young man that I was working with. So he ends up going to Indiana State. He has a really good career. Like, they were bad for a while. And below 500. First year, they go 500. Second year, won 17 games. So he got a jump starts what they end up doing. Well, I end up going to Indiana State because of Rashad Reed, who was a player, because of Lou Godino, who was the associate coach, my relationship, and I'm there for 4 years. Well, first year we go 20 and whatever, we go to the NCAA tournament. I want to say it's the best stretch of success that program's ever had in 4 years. Timing, luck, whatever you want to call it, that's what happened. But end up going there because of my network with certain people. And I'm there for 4 years. Fast forward to Bowling Green State University, which is the next place I go after Indiana State. And I end up there for a couple reasons. Number one, when I was at Vincennes, we really, really recruited Ohio hard. Like, when I'm looking at Ohio, I'm like, okay, there's players in Texas, like Texas junior colleges, and Kansas junior colleges, and Florida junior colleges that have Ohio players. I looked at the map, and I'm like, these dudes got to go through Indiana to get to these other places. Why are we not recruiting them? So I spent a lot of time in all parts of Ohio to recruit that area hard. So my connection with that is my man Chris Jans gets a head coaching job at Bowling Green State University, which is in Ohio. For anyone who's from the Midwest or been in the Midwest, when you say Bowling Green, the first thing they say is Kentucky, because that's where Western Kentucky's at. But we're in Ohio, Bowling Green State University in Ohio, recruited Ohio like crazy. Chris Jans, a connection between me and him, he was the one who came in and tried to recruit Rashad Reed, who ended up going to Indiana State, really hard. And he's best friends with Lou Godino, who I've mentioned twice now, and he was best friends with the head coach at Indiana State, and Greg Lansing. So my relationship with them, his relationship with them, brought us together. My hard work in Ohio and what he needed brought us together. Again, network. Go to Northern Kentucky. And the reason why I ended up going to Northern Kentucky is because the head coach, who is John Brennan, was really, really close with one of the assistants at Bowling Green State University, where I was just at. Me and him were really, really close, the other assistant. John Brennan was looking for somebody who knew Indiana and recruited Indiana, which I was at Indiana State and Vincennes, and I'm from Indiana, so that's part of it. and someone who could recruit and knew Ohio. And I was in Bowling Green, and I recruited all of Ohio when I was at Vincennes. So it all tied together as far as network, all right? Leave from Northern Kentucky, and I go to Valpo. And the connection with Valpo is the associate head coach, who is Luke Gore. I met him when I was at Vincennes. The international scene is who they recruit. And when I was at Vincennes, we had an international kid from Croatia. Well, Homer Drew and one of his assistants, Luke Gore, come down to recruit our player. They don't end up getting them. But we built a good relationship. And then at Northern Kentucky, we go from one league, the A Sun, to the Horizon League. And what league is Valpo in at the time? The Horizon League. So we ran into each other a lot. So when everything went down and Bryce Drew ends up leaving to go into Vandy, Matt Lotta gets a head coaching job at Valpo, I get a call from Luke Gore. And he's like, hey, are you interested in coming to Valpo? We need somebody with some strong ties in Indiana, da-da-da-da. That's how I get to Valpo. And fast forward, I'm wearing the Utah State stuff. And how I end up at Utah State is one of the assistant coaches is really good friends with one of my former players from Vincennes, who I also work with. I helped him get a job and worked with him at Indiana State. And they've known each other forever. All right. The other assistant coach ends up being really good friends with one of my former assistants when I was at Vincennes. He's now head coach down in Florida. And they're tight. So I know both of those guys. And then the icing on the cake is our head coach, Craig Smith, is really, really close with Greg Lansing, who's the head coach at Indiana State. And then let's put the cherry on top. While I was at Vincennes, like all those players, well, most of those players moved on to four-year schools. Guess where three of them went? Utah State. So I'm saying all that, bringing it all together about our network. Like, while we're in here, get to know each other. All right, talk to each other. Ask questions. Find out where everyone's from. You'd be surprised how connected we really are. And do it genuinely. Build a real relationship with each other, but it could pay dividends later on. And that's my journey. And I know Coach didn't talk too much about where I've been because I wanted to cover that. Hopefully I didn't put anybody to sleep, but that's my journey. And it's because of the people I know, the people I came in contact with, and the hard work that I put into it. And I've been very, very fortunate. I love where I'm at. I'm now best job that I've ever had, making the most money that I've ever made. Top 25 program to end the year last year. No thanks to you, Dub, over there smacking us around. Great program. And preseason top 25. Never been a part of that in my life. And I have a lot to be thankful for in my career, from the guys that we graduated to the games that we won, championships we won, to get phone calls 10 years later. Coach, man, I appreciate you for not giving up on me. I love you, Coach. There's no better words than a young man who you've seen struggle, and you're like, man, is this dude going to make it? And you're putting time into and energy, and he called you later on, and Coach, man, I really appreciate you. I love you. Coaches have a long year, it's a lot of stress, da-da-da, and you get down there, you're like, man, let me let my hair down. It's been a long year, but you happen to go there, you get an opportunity to go there, get out in front of people. That's something I didn't do when I was younger. I didn't. Not until, I'm going to be honest with you, not until the last couple of years have I done that. And it's been very, first off, I learned a lot and going to different forums, whether it's assistant coaches, whether it's rising coaches, whether it's Christian coaches, whether it's black coaches, whether it's, they got everything there that you can think of. Hispanic coaches, they got the whole deal. It's about going out and getting some of that information. I think it's really, really important if you can do it, to go there and get connected with people, because how many people in here are trying, like, are you dead set with where you're at? Or how many people are trying to move up, per se, to another job or better your career? I mean, that's why you guys are here, right? And there's a lot of people, I'm telling you, that will help you out, but you have to put forth the effort and show them that you want that. There's no better teacher in life than experience, right? Okay, so I talked about the money that I made whenever I was at Frank Phillips, and the money, so $1,500, $4,000 when it all is said and done. I leave and go to Vincennes, I'm making $20,000. Like, I'm 23 at the time. I'm like, I'm balling, like I'm doing all right. I made 20 G's. I was just coming off 4, so I'm doing all right. I get the head coaching job at Vincennes. I'm making 50. Like, you can't tell me nothing. I'm good. But the American way is get you a house, get you some nice cars, the whole deal. At 25, I ended up getting married to my girlfriend, who almost killed me when I said I'm about to go to Frank Phillips, you know, in 2 weeks, and she waited for me to graduate. I didn't tell that part. Before she figured out her deal, she thought I was going to stay put. So end up getting married. You know, the first thing we do, buy 2 cars. And we were driving 2 cars that worked. Dumb. But that's the American way. The next thing we do, we buy a house. And what's crazy about that is, like, when we buy that house, we're there 9 months and get Indiana State. Like, there's nothing wrong with buying a house. But I'm, at that time, 28 years old, maybe. I wrote a $14,000 check because I was in that house for 9 months. I hadn't, like, remind you, let's go back 5 years. I was getting paid $4,000. I'm writing a check, like, shaking, like, about to pass out of $14,000. So it's not a good investment. What I would say, and I'm talking net worth now, if as you get your checks, as you move up, buy the house you want to retire in. Like, I don't care if it's here in Washington, if it's in California, if it's in Florida, if it's in Utah, buy a house that you think you want to, like, retire in, and rent it out until you're ready to retire. Like, that's just stuff that I just recently learned. If you own property, it never loses its value. Like, you gain your value. Find a place that you want to retire, or find a place that you love going to. Man, we always go here every summer. Buy a house there then. Why are you giving a hotel? Buy a house, or buy a piece of land. If it's $65,000, buy that land and eventually build on it. Or if it blows up, then you can sell it. You get it for $65,000, maybe 10, 15 years from now, you can sell it for $1.5 or $1.2, $1.5 million. That's just growing your net worth with what you have. Drive your car till the wheel's about to fall off. And then, I'm telling you, that's the worst. Like, a house is a bad investment. A car is even worse. Like, as soon as you drive that thing off the lot, that thing, you can't get what you just bought. You know, living within your means. Like, I'm telling you, like, growing up, we just brainwashed the wrong stuff. Like, looking the nicest, having the nicest, like, all that stuff means nothing. Like, what's your legacy? Like, I think about now, my daughter's 11, my son is 9. They're going to be in high school, then college. What am I building for them? What am I leaving them? But debt is not what it is. You have credit cards, get rid of them. Cut them up. Like, get rid of them. That cash is king. So always remember that. My dad used to tell me that. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, they keep, they keep mailing me credit cards, man. Like $40,000, what are you talking about? Cash is king. Like, this is real money. Download this app on your phone if you don't already have it. All right, write it down or download it, whatever. It's called Acorns. Okay, everybody knows what Acorns is. For those who don't, like, download it. I'm going to tell you, Acorns is an app-based investment vehicle that works by rounding up your spending. Like, everybody has credit cards, debit cards, whatever. Like, you go and buy something, if it's $19.26, what are you doing with the other? Like, you ain't going to miss out on, what is that, 70, for a math major, 74 cents? Like, you get that? Like, sometimes we get change and we just throw it away. So download this app, put it in there, and let that money grow over time. I know we're all in here for advancement. We're all in here to grow, to do whatever. Like, I'm an assistant coach. What do y'all think I want to be next? A head coach. Like, I've been fortunate to have interviews the last couple of years. When God sees fit, I'm going to be a head coach. That's going to happen. As I started to climb up, my focus started being, how am I going to get my next job? How am I going to get my next whatever? And please understand, like, I don't care where you're at, high school, JUCO, middle school, like Boys and Girls Club, D2, D1, NAI, I don't care. Realize the impact that you guys are making on the young people that you work with. Like that, I know I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for people like you all. I know I've had, I'm getting emotional thinking about it, but I think about the young men that I've been around and worked with, and the fact that there's people that counted them out, said they weren't going to be anything, said they weren't going to graduate, and gave them all kind of excuses, whether it's because it's how you were raised or where you came from or because you're learning disability or whatever it may be. Like, any excuse is a good excuse if you let it be. And I didn't want to hear no for them kids. And it's so rewarding now because I see them and I get the calls and I get the texts and it feels so good. So I'm saying all that to say, I know that everyone wants to advance and move on and get your opportunities and grow your money. And I am strongly encouraging you all, hit the Final Four, call me, call people that are close to you, wherever you're at. If you're D2, call D1 coaches or NA, whatever. Like, make your connections. Network like crazy to grow your net worth. Leave a legacy in multiple ways. Like, leave your legacy for the young people that you work with. First thing, you got to put that in front of you and like hold yourself accountable. But there's only one person stopping you from being that. And that's one thing that I would tell them, like, how great do you really want to be? How good do you really want to be? Like, if you want to be that, like, okay, let's put a game plan together. And a lot of times that, number one, like for college is time management. Like, I sit down and I always figure out a calendar for the young men that I'm working with, that I'm mentoring. Like, we have to, all right, you got, like, it's not like high school. Like, 8 o'clock you go to school, 3 o'clock you get out. Go to practice, then you go home. Like, it could be an 8 o'clock class, you don't have another one till 11. What are you doing in between that time? Like, you need to eat, you need to work out, you need to study. Like, you have time to do all that stuff. And then you got another, so we do that. I've actually sat with some of them young men and done like a financial, because, they get the Pell Grant. They ain't never seen that much money. Like, dang, coach, I get $5,000. Like, yeah, but you got to stretch it out. Don't buy a bunch of J's, man. Like, you got to make this work, like pay your bill, whatever it may be. So that's just training them how to get through what they need to get through. And then we're on it every single day. Like, you can have goals, you can have dreams, you can have aspirations, but you got to be consistent in them. And we will revisit that every single day. And a lot of times, like when you're going through whatever you're going through, you want a reassurance that somebody's got your back. Coming over to the house, doing laundry, eating a meal, whatever, like I got them.
I believe that I'm here on purpose. I have some things that hopefully you can take away, some nuggets that you can use and cash in on. I want to create an atmosphere, a space for you to be able to ask questions that you may have. And I want you to know that I do not stand here an expert on the topic that I'm sharing. But I do have some experience in being successful in a program, and I want to share that with you. Just to be really candid, something about this weekend is deeply special to me and to my brothers and sisters who look like me. The first ship arrived here of slaves 400 years ago this week. Let that sink in. 400 years ago. And so I stand here not on my own. I stand here on a lot of shoulders, some who have gone on and a lot who are still alive. And so just know that everything that I share today is something that that isn't just me. It comes from a lot of people. I believe that I'm here because God created basketball for me. I'm going to say that selfishly. He created that for me, and I know He created it for you, otherwise you wouldn't be here. But I believe that God gave me basketball to keep me focused, to keep me from going down past that I could have gone down, to keep me from believing that my life was a joke, to keep me from believing that I couldn't accomplish anything, and I'm grateful for that. I'm truly grateful for that, and I believe that basketball is a high calling. It's close and next to being a teacher, another high calling, and I don't believe that this country respects teachers the way that we should, which is why our educational system is the way that it is. I believe in education, and I believe that it is important. And I believe that this system of education in the United States has failed, but it still has remnants of good things. And so, with all that said, basketball has been the vehicle for me to travel across the country and meet people that are amazing and do things that are amazing and that are fun. I don't believe in doing stuff that's not fun. And I know that you got to do stuff that ain't fun all the time. But at the core of it, it should be fun. Anyways, I came from Portland. I went to Jefferson High School. I left Jeff, graduated there, went to Idaho, University of Idaho, and went to the University of Eastern Washington University. I graduated from there, came over here to Seattle about 15 years ago after I married my husband, and he got me out of Portland, and I've been here ever since. And so there's a lot of things that I didn't know about Seattle when I moved here. One was that Cleveland High School, where I was the head coach, was the doormat of Metro. I found that out after I went and got the job. My husband told me, I don't, you sure you want to go to Cleveland? It's like, yeah, that's where I got the job. He was like, you sure? I was like, yeah. He was like, Cleveland is the doormat of Metro. And I was like, no, didn't know that, but that's exactly what I wanted. And he was like, good luck with that. Good luck with that. And I said, well, I really would like for you to coach with me. And he was like, oh, no. No. But thankfully he agreed. And we were able to create something special there. create something special there. So with that, I want to share this video. It's a short clip.
How do I know? A lot of people, when they think of the phrase, how do I know, they always want to put the what behind it. How do I know what I'm supposed to do? The question that you really should ask is, how do I know why I'm here? Because when you know your why, your what becomes more clear and more impactful. If you know, like for instance, people know that I do comedy, but that's what I do. My why is to inspire people to walk in purpose. So I can do comedy, I can write books, I can be in a movie, because all of it is motivated by my why. In fact, I have a new web series out called Michael Jr. Break Time. We probably just did the 6th episode. It's on YouTube. So every single Wednesday at 3 o'clock, we drop a new episode on YouTube of Michael Jr. Break Time. What it is it's me. I travel around the country and I do stand-up comedy, in case you didn't know. And in the middle of my comedy set sometime, I'll stop and just talk to my audience. And we've been filming this, and it's pretty cool. So we're in Winston-Salem. I'm gonna show you a clip from Winston-Salem. And I'm just talking to this guy in the audience, and he tells me that he's a musical instructor at a school. So I was like, all right, you're a musical instructor, can you sing? Let me hear you sing a song. So this is what happened at the last episode of Michael Jr.'s Break Time. Check it. So you're a musical director. Cool.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let me get a couple bars of like Amazing Grace. Can you do the first part of that? Go ahead.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Wow.
That bro could sing, you know what I'm saying?
All right. Now, what you give me the version is if your uncle just got out of jail, you got shot in the back when you was a kid. I'm just saying, let me see the hood version real quick, if you know which version I'm talking about. Just see if that exists. Let me see what you got.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Found, was blind, but now I see.
Okay, here's what I want you to catch. The first time I asked him to sing, he knew what he was doing. The second time, he knew why he was doing it. When you know your why, your what becomes more impactful because you're walking towards or in your purpose.
I hadn't always known my why, and I don't think that coaches across the board always think about that and keep that in the forefront of their mind as they're moving through their seasons of basketball. And so understanding your why is the most important aspect of building a successful program. One of the things that we used to do at Cleveland was we would have a team retreat at the beginning of the year. We'd take the girls somewhere completely removed from normalcy and comfort. And we would just go there, have meals together, play together. But one thing was always done, and that was we would meet with each player and we would talk about the value that they brought to our program, and we would talk about what they wanted this program to look like. What did they want this program to show our community? What were the values that they wanted to live by? And we took those values and allowed them to be a part of what we were as a whole. Because we understood that our part in everything wasn't that we were leading and they were just coming along. You know, the values that they created, we held them accountable to. That was their why. And those values are what drove their behavior. And so because they wanted to be successful, because they wanted to win, because they wanted to show their community that they worked hard, because they wanted to show their community that they were serious about their academics, they did the work. And all we did was hold them accountable to what they said they wanted to do. When they understood their why, they were able to step in fully and do the things that allowed them to be so successful. I coached with my husband. I coached with a really good friend named Wes Irwin. And we had a plethora of other coaches that were a part of our program. Diane was a part of our program at one point and helped us in many ways. Andrew Bernard, Tiana Jordan, Barry Jones. I mean, you know, the list goes on and on and on of people that were a part of our program and helped our kids succeed. And so I say all those names because there wasn't really the hierarchy that is known, you know, organizationally and worldwide and, you know, in the basketball arena. Of course, you had a head coach, and that head coach ultimately was responsible and had to talk about what was going on. But really, I had people behind me and with me, alongside of me, that allowed me to be successful and helped me be successful. Those kids that worked hard, they gave of themselves, they sacrificed their bodies and their minds, their hearts, their spirits, and they did something special. And I got to be a part of it. It has to keep evolving, even though it stays the same. And so you need to be clear about what it is you want to accomplish. You need to be clear, and everybody that is a part of your program, your staff, they have to be clear as well. They should be able to move forward without you telling them what's going on, how we're going to do it, when we're going to do it. They should be able to do that because you've allowed them to fully be a part of that vision, creating that vision, and walking that vision out.
Winning is the ultimate goal for all of the coaches here, right? But most coaches aren't willing to do the hard work that it takes to build a culture to establish what it takes to win. What percentage would you place on the importance of building a culture and getting kids bought in, the retreats, the interaction there to get to winning? Because the most successful teams talk about brotherhood, sisterhood, those things. What percentage would you say as a coach is that time spent off court?
When we look at a destination or somewhere that we want to go, there's a road that gets there. But if we don't have the destination, then we will all just, you know, be moving around any old kind of way. There's no discrete purpose or intention behind it. And so that clarity is necessary so that everybody can be on board. There's a story about JFK, and he talked about how he had gone into NASA. And it was before they were trying to, you know, send a man to the moon. He goes into the building and a janitor walks by and he introduces himself. He says, "Hi, what's your name?" The guy tells him his name. They're talking and he says, "What do you do here?" And the janitor says, "Oh, I'm sending a man to the moon." And JFK was like, "Well, you just told me he was a janitor though, right?" But the thing behind that janitor saying, "I'm sending a man to the moon," was that he understood the why and the vision. The why and the vision was that We collectively are sending someone to the moon, and I play a valuable part in that. I'm gonna clean this building. I'm gonna make sure these toilets is clean. I'm gonna make sure that when people come into these rooms, everything is clean and set up. I play a part in this. I'm a valuable part in getting this person to the moon. And so I say that to say that everybody that you are in relationship with, that you run across, that you meet, that is a part of your program, that is a part of your university or your school, they play a part in some way. And the question is, do they know what part they play? Do they know that they're even playing a part? A common thread in everything that we're doing today is a relationship. Relationships are what rule the world, nothing else. We like to say that all these different things rule the world, but it's relationships that rule the world. And so how are we relating to people? How are we showing up? Who are we, right? The biggest thing that you can do is your own work. And by that I mean you are making sure that you're in the best place possible to be the coach that can help and engage people in a way that positively moves them towards success. So when I first got to Cleveland, like I said, I found out it was a doormat at Metro. I didn't know that. Their record said it, so I figured that out quick. But they had some really, really good talent. I walked into the gym the first day that I was the coach, the head coach, and one of my best players was sitting in the gym. They was all kind of in the gym, hanging out, you know, just, they wasn't doing nothing. They was just, they was just tired, right? They was, well, you know, practice today, I don't know. You guys want to go smoke? I don't know, you know. It was just kind of, that was kind of how they got down. And I walked into the gym, and I was like, hey, you know, they was sitting down. I was like, what's up? You know, introducing myself to people, and they were like, who are you? And I was like, I'm the new head coach, Stephanie. Nice to meet you. And then the kid said, I ain't gonna say her name because some of y'all might know her, but she said, she was like, we don't win here. And I was like, what? I said, I came to win. So I don't know about you, but we're going to state, right? That was the thing. It was an immediate, like an almost automatic thing that I had to start saying, because they had no idea about any of that. It was like, that's stuff that other teams do. And so it was an immediate thing of saying over and over and over and over that we're going to be successful. We're going to go to state, right? And not only are we going to go to state, we're going to go to state and win, because going to state isn't where it's at. Like, you want to win, right? So let's go to state and win. And so that was really kind of the vision. It was like, let's go and be successful. And that was literally the first day that I met the players.
So it sounds like you get the job, you walk in.
Yep.
First thing you got to do is change the culture.
Absolutely.
Right? Was it more difficult for you to change the culture or sustain it once you started winning?
Change it. So you got a culture and you have a climate. The culture is what everybody understands and knows. The climate is how everybody feels when they come into your culture. So everybody on the outside sees this change, but it's on the inside that they understand what this change actually feels like. And if we like this feeling, I know me, if I like something, I want more of it, right? And so that is technically what allowed the culture to remain the same. When we got to Cleveland, because it was in the state that it was in, there wasn't a program athletically that had been successful in that school for years. And we, in essence, were teaching the administration what it meant to be, to have a program. And so we had to teach not only our kids and give our kids a vision, we had to give a whole school and administration a vision. It's the daily, the weekly, the monthly things that you have to do in order for people to actually believe that what you said you were going to do, the vision that you cast, is actually what you meant. And so, going back to relationships, it really came down to relationships. I spent a lot of time with my principal. When I was at Oregon, we spent a lot of time with our director, our athletic director. She was around a lot. She was in meetings. Sometimes we didn't want her to be there, but we needed her to be there so that she understood what our vision was and where we were going. Same thing with the principal at Cleveland. Everybody needed to be pulled along, and which is why you have to have a group of people that understand that we are doing this. It isn't just the coach. We are doing this because I alone cannot pull all these people along by myself. And we need reinforcement. We need reinforcement. How do you deal with parents? So there's a lot of, how many college coaches are in here? How many high school coaches are in here? Oh yeah, yeah. So this is good stuff. Because you know how parents are, right? Man, listen. I'm praying that I'm not a parent like I have had to deal with when my kids decide what they want to do athletically, if that's what they want to do. But it goes back to consistency and your discipline and being who you said you are. Being who you said that you are. Being real, being honest, being upfront. The thing that I did initially was I had a parent meeting and I just kind of laid everything out. And I gave them some parameters and I gave them some things, some hard stops, and that was it. Like, I ain't got time to be dealing with no grown folks that got grown folks issues that ain't mine, right? And so it's easier said than done, but if you're consistent and you're honest and you're upfront with these parents, a lot of times, mostly, they will get in line. It's not my job to tell every parent what we talked about in our individual meetings with their kids. That is, if you want to find that out, talk to your kid. And if you want a reinforcement, I will give you that. But just because you don't think that it's equal doesn't mean it's not fair. Because in this house, in our community, in our team, we all decided that these were the values that were going to drive the behavior that we use when we're coaching. Most successful programs have leadership styles that encompass transformational leadership. And transformational leadership is relational, right? If bear with me for a minute, I'm gonna just give you a visual. If we put up a gingerbread man on the wall who was empty, right? And we said all the things externally that this kid may be dealing with or may have need of. And then we said all the things internally that each kid may have need of in order to be successful. 9 times out of 10, the internal stuff will be the same for every kid. We need to belong. We need to know that you love us. We need to know that what you say is what you mean. I initially started at Cleveland with my husband and Wes and my godfather, my goddad. My goddad, I've known him all my life. He knew me when I was in utero, right? He's my dad's best friend. And he started out with us, but in the middle of the season, because we were building a culture and shifting a climate, he had grown fond of one of our best players. Like, he just took her on as a daughter, right? And he felt like she couldn't do no wrong. And she was a mess. She was a mess. And she needed to understand that in order for you to change the course of your path, you're going to have to make some changes. My goddad, we had this game, and I sat 3 of my best players in this game because we were in the process of changing a culture and creating a different climate. And so I sat these 3 players. She was one of those players, and he was not in agreement with that, like visibly. And he sat at the end of the bench with his leg crossed and his arms like this, you know, pretty much the whole game, because he didn't agree with the fact that we had sat all these players in order for our team to take and make a shift. So I didn't know what I was going to do. You know, this is my goddad. I love him. I like him being a part of this program, but that ain't where it's at. We ain't doing that, right? So I went back and forth with Derek, and we were just kind of talking about, what do I do? You know, we had seen remnants of that playing up to that point, but that was the kicker. That was the thing that broke listen here, buddy. You gotta go, right? So in the middle of the season, I have to tell my goddad, listen, this ain't working. You can't coach. You can't be with us. We can't have that. That's not where we're going. That's not what we're trying to teach these young ladies, right? If we want her to be successful, then we can't give her 2 crutches. And you are giving her crutches. And so I had to let him go. And it was the hardest thing to do. I literally could not sleep the night before after that game. And I literally had to, you know, tell him. And guess what? End of that season was our first championship. And he wasn't a part of it. But he knows. He knew, right? And we're still in relationship. Like, he just turned 70, had a big old party. We was out there kicking it. But you can't coach with me. I love you, but you can't coach with me, right? Give me your question.
So winning is the ultimate goal for all of the coaches here, right? But most coaches aren't willing to do the hard work that it takes to build the culture to establish what it takes to win.
Yeah.
What percentage would you place on the importance of building the culture and getting kids bought in, the retreats, the interaction there to get to winning? Because the most successful teams talk about brotherhood, sisterhood, those things. What percentage would you say as a coach is that time spent off court versus on court?
Oh, it's probably upwards of 80. It's the bulk of it. It's the 90. You know, it's the bread and butter. Everything that you see is like the presentation, but everything done behind it, all of that stuff is the most important. It's the stuff that lasts, right? How many people in here are married? Anybody married? Right? And so before you got married, you did a lot of work to get to that marriage, right? And after you got married, you found out that all that work was good stuff, but you still got a lot of work to do, right?
Amen.
And a lot of that, amen. And a lot of that work is still some of the same work that you started in order to get her.
But it's more important now.
Exactly, because you want to maintain it, right? And so that's the stuff that nobody sees, the work personally, interpersonally, that has to be done as a coach is so much more important than what people actually get to see. Any other questions? Yep.
I think every coach here deals with it.
Yeah. He asked about their grades. How did you implement your guidelines and stuff for their grades? That became a no-brainer for us. Like, this is the bar. Right here. This is the bar, everybody. Get to the bar. Right? And a lot of kids have a hard time getting to the bar, but they can get there. I think that we do our kids a disservice by not giving them a bar and doing like this with the bar for any kid. And I get it, because kids are not the same. Just like our kids that we had and birthed are not the same. They need different things. But every kid should have the bar. And if every kid doesn't have the bar, then they don't get to play. Okay? So if we get to go out here with all of the kids that usually sit at the end of the bench, and they get all the minutes, then we have to suffer through that. That's the thing that as a coach, as a coach, you have at the high school level, because I know when we get to the big leagues, you're going to get a job and you're going to keep your job and figure that out. It's different. And you can get fired tomorrow, or so to speak, next month or year. You don't have a longer bandwidth to play with at the next level. But the things still are, the concrete things are still the same, right? If you're in college and you're not passing your classes and you're not eligible, guess what? You don't get to play. Same thing applies at high school. If you don't pass the bar, like get your grades, you don't get to play. So you got to raise the bar, and you have to be okay with keeping the bar there and dealing with what happens when the kids that you want to meet the bar don't meet it.
Can I ask that?
Yes.
So we do the exact same thing. The bar is above what you have teams ever done.
Yes.
Right? So our teams usually go 3.0 this semester, right? So we got 4 or 5 guys that can't ever get these. So what we do is we treat it the same way we do our role to find out the court.
Mm-hmm.
So your role on the court, your role in the community, and your role in the classroom are really the same. So if I got 3 5 students, 2 5 students, and that 3 5 students get ready to get some of these tough classes, it's probably only going to get 3.0.
Yep.
2 5 students have 3.0 this semester to give you some more time. So now everybody understands, we all got different roles in the classroom.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? So now when you get 25 shots a game and I'm getting none, I'm okay with that, because in the other aspects, I still have leadership roles. And so what happens is you get all these different aspects of being impactful in the program.
Yeah.
It's not always about your playing time.
Yeah.
It could be in the classroom.
That's good. That's good stuff. It's good stuff. Yeah.
I got a question for you, not trying to be provocative, but you're a very successful female coach. What do you think about the influx of women coaching in the NBA? If you coach boys, because there are a lot of men that coach girls.
Yeah.
Would you lead the same way? Would you build the same way?
Yes. And I think it's absolutely wonderful. You got men coaching these women forever, right? And a lot of women can coach men, they don't. I'm just glad to see a shift taking place. It's necessary, and I feel like it's about time, right? We can birth y'all. How many people came from a woman, right? Shoot, you better ask somebody. I'm out here doing all kind of stuff, right? We multitask in a way that you don't know nothing about that, right? A whole bunch of stuff we doing at once. Why can't we coach some men? Thank you for that point. Yep.
You mentioned you were blessed with some talent when you arrived in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Would you approach it differently if you didn't have any talent? You were a doormat and there's no talent there. You want to tap into their values, and account with that. How do you get them to aspire at something like you want to go to state? What if they have what if they're beginner level basketball players?
Yeah, you have to taper your, so the ultimate why is that I want this kid to be successful as a whole person. So I'm coaching a whole person. You guys know we are psychiatrists and doctors and mamas and daddies and uncles and, you know, all the different roles that we play as a coach. And so it doesn't change your why. You still want to assist in a young person being successful as a whole, right? It just changes or tapers your short-term goals. So maybe we're just not good enough to go to state this year. But hey, let's win 18 games, or let's get to pass Metro, or let's get a district title, or you know what I'm saying? Let's win 8 games, right? That you have to give them the vision of something that they have never seen. We did set the bar academically higher than what the academic standards were, because we want whole, successful students, right? That was just what we did. We were in the inner city, and we had a lot of young black girls. We wanted them to be able to go to college. Whether you go to college on an athletic scholarship or not, we want you to be able to go to college. We want to set you up so that your grades and your academics allow you an opportunity to go to college. And so we had to get our buy-in from our administration and help them understand, right? As an administrator, aren't we all here to help these kids succeed, right? So let's push these kids, because they will. Yep.
So you build your culture up. You win some state titles.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is something we're battling. Maybe you did have to battle this. So how do you manage your expectations when your talent graduates? And now you have parents, possibly some players too. They say, hey, you go to school here, shoot, we win it. That's what we do here.
Right.
But in our case, we graduated D1 kid, D2 kid, NAI kid. Now we're building this younger group back up.
Yep.
How do you manage the players' expectations, your community, and your parents as well?
You begin again with your kids, right? You begin again with your kids. Parents are going to send their kids there because they know about your culture. They don't know about the climate. They don't know how kids feel here when they leave here. So the culture is, we know that this school wins, right? But until you get into the climate of the school and the program, then the kids don't fully know what it feels like to be in this program. And how are you making kids feel? Right? What do they feel like when they're a part of your program, when they're engaging your staff? And that is what the kid has to communicate to that parent.
When you started out at that program, how much of that, or was there any focus directed or extended out past to the kids, like feeder programs? Because since I've been here, I haven't really seen much of a focus on feeder programs, which is essentially the preparatory level for the high school level. So they know and understand what to be ready for as they're approaching this school. So was there any focus, and if so, what did you do to bridge the gap between the incoming kids coming from middle schools and your program, and to create that culture for them coming into it?
So there wasn't a feeder program. What we did do some youth camps and invited kids, but a lot of what's going on now is the AAU programs, and they're pretty strong in that those are the kids that really want to play. And so you build relationship with AAU coaches and coaches that are in the community working with different kids that may have programs, but from my experience, there hasn't been a lot of feeder programs in the city, like you know, the typical feeder schools, like the Eastside Catholic. They kind of have a pipeline of kids that go from their youngers all the way up to the olders. That's not typical for us. It wasn't typical for us in the inner city. And so you got to build relationships. You got to find out where the kids are, and you got to build relationships with those coaches that are working with those kids. Yeah.
I got to tell you, on the ride down here, I was like, I'll be 4 or 5 people. I'll be good. And I get up here and I'm like, dang. The cool thing, though, that I'm happy to see is that we can all come together and talk about the game of basketball, something that we all love. So that being said, let's give a hand to the guys that put this together. A lot of stuff goes on behind the scene in the game of basketball or whatever you're doing. A lot of stuff goes on behind the scenes that you get no credit for, right? And so as an assistant coach, you got to be okay with that. You got to be okay with that because we all have egos. Everybody has an ego, and we all want to be the man. We all think we're born leaders. We all think my mom, growing up, was like, boy, I didn't raise you to be no follower. I raised you to be a leader. And so growing up, she would always say, my handsome son. She would always introduce me as my handsome son, David, my handsome son, David. Well, in me, I'm like, damn, I'm not handsome. Honest, I'm not handsome. I was like, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means because I'm texting girls. They don't text back. I came here to be honest. You know, I'm not the #1 dude on my basketball team. He's got 2 girls on each arm. I can't get one. And I'm like the 5th guy on my team. I'm the 5th best player, but my hunger was to be the best, like always. Growing in high school, my mom used to say, she'd ask me, what's your plans today? I'm like, well, I got to go, I got practice in the morning at 6 o'clock. And then we got practice after school, and then I'm gonna go down to the junior college and play with them. So I practiced for 4 straight years. I practiced 3 times a day. And here's why. I was a baseball player. I was a really good baseball player. But my brother and I, who literally fist fought dang near every day. He was 3 years older, he's a hell of a player, but he had attitude. And I wasn't no punk, so you punch me, I punch you, I run. So she would always say, well, what's your plan? All right, well, what time are you leaving? Well, I got to leave. So-and-so, my buddy's going to come pick me up. What time's he coming? Well, he'll be here at 8 o'clock. All right. How long does it take you to walk if he ain't here? Well, that's like a 30-minute walk. All right, well, if he ain't here by 7:30, you better get to stepping. And she wasn't, my mom, she wasn't no joke. I many a times would have hangers thrown at me, shoes. One time she even had an extension cord. That's the time I ran. So for me growing up in that hunger, wanting to be a leader, wanting to always be a leader that strive to be the best is what drove me to be the best I could be as a basketball. I could talk about my basketball career, but I'm not here for that. I'm here hopefully to say something to help you guys, older, younger, whatever it is, to get you to think a little bit different about what you want from a head coaching perspective and what you want as an assistant coach and what you should be giving that head coach from an assistant coach perspective. Assistant coaches, something that's very important that you need to understand. You are not the head coach. When you get that title, then like I'm sure coaches have said before me today, when you get that title, pick your assistant coaches very carefully. And that's not to say that you're not going to trust them or you're not going to, you want to bring a staff in that adds to your program to help you become a better coach. And that's okay with that. That's okay with lifting you up and going, yeah, that's the head guy. I'm just going to go do this stuff behind the scenes to help us be successful. Because it doesn't matter what you do, that coach, that head coach is going to get the love. He's going to get it or she's going to get it. And you got to be okay with that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do whatever things that I need to do to help us be successful, because if we all are honest with ourselves, I want to be the head coach. I want to get back to being a head coach someday. That's my goal. But in order for me to do that, I got to help us be successful. I got to do the things that I need to do to help us be successful as a unit. What does that mean? Coaches come to you talking about, man, what's he doing? What's he doing? This makes no sense. Well, if you stop and think about it, and you take his mind and you think about what he's thinking in his mind and what he's trying to do, and stop trying to get the answer for it, because you're never going to get the answer for what we're trying to do if you don't go ask. You got to go ask. And as an assistant coach, I'm a question guy. And it's not questioning the coach. It's because I want to be on the same page as you. I want to be, if they ask me what you did at 10 o'clock or what you're doing at 10 o'clock, I want to be able to say, oh yeah, he's going down to 3rd Street and then he's going to take a right on left street or whatever. I want to know what you're doing so we can talk the same language. I need to be able to learn to talk your language. So if you're an assistant coach, learn the head coach's language. Sometimes that takes a year, sometimes that takes 2 years, sometimes it takes 3 years, but learn it. That's your goal. Stop trying to be the head coach, right? It's an ego thing. Got to drop it. Got to let it go, right? So for me, honestly, I could stand up here, talk to you, and start crying, and walk out the door and not worry about what you're thinking, because my ego ain't above it. My ego ain't there. I'm looking at you guys like, honestly, I look at everybody in here. I don't care what level you is, or high school, junior high, AAU. I don't care. We're all the same. So when you walk up to me, I'm talking to you as an equal, period, because I have no ego. Some of my best seasons that I ever had as a head coach came right after we sucked. Like, sucked. Because I was like, I walk in and coaches have egos and we all want to be the best, but I walk in and I'm like, man, we struggled last year. We won 8 games. How do I turn that around? Well, now I'm gonna sit down when I talk to you, because you sitting down, so I'm gonna sit down. To be honest, I'm the type of guy that I could sit down right now and we can just have a discussion. We can shoot questions and I'm gonna just be honest with you, because for me, the knowledge that I have, I've always wanted to pass it on. Like, guys ask me, like, Coach, how do I be successful? Well, one thing is you got to stop talking. We got these 5 senses. Let this one be the best one you got. Because if you're talking, you're not listening. Right? So for me, being an assistant coach, I want to ask questions and be prepared for answers you don't want to hear. And don't take it personal. Don't take it personal. Because just because you are, and I'm speaking from experience, this is nobody else, this is me. Just because you're a head coach, you don't know everything. And one of those things you may not know is how to speak so that everybody understands and accepts what you're saying in a positive manner. Right? So, as an assistant, what we're doing offensively, what we're doing defensively. If I'm taking the offense, if I'm taking the defense, if I'm taking an out-of-bounds play, do your homework. Like overkill. Become a specialist at it. Like, somebody asks you something you ain't never heard of, watch every YouTube video watch them all. Know what you're talking about, and if you don't know, be okay with saying, I don't know. Because people are going to think you're stupid when you say something that makes absolutely no sense. Because we all think we know it all. When you speak with confidence. Because these kids these days, man, they will, and on to that, they will question you for whatever comes out of your mouth is like, you said this at 6 o'clock on the 18th. They remember. So don't think you're going to sneak something by them. So always be honest. If you're always honest, you ain't got to worry about the lie you told last week. Right? I coach how I teach my family. So I just had a granddaughter, 13-year-old daughter, 19-year-old daughter, and my wife. So it's me and 4 girls in the house right now. And I'm telling you, as a dad, what we say leader, but I don't lead at home. As a dad, everything that comes out of my mouth is important, because I'm telling you, I don't know who all's dad's in here, but I'm telling you, for me, there's nothing worse than a man upsetting his daughter. Because they're going to someday have a husband or a partner that you as a dad are going to expect that person to lead your daughter. And I say lead, and I don't mean like that. I mean as a man in the household, right? And so I got to teach them what to expect from somebody, and don't have, like, their standards better be up here, because that's the example I'm trying to set for my girls. So when you talk to somebody else's kids, when I talk to our team, I treat them with that respect. I give them the information that they need to have, that I feel they need to have, so that they can be good people in our program, good people in our society. I could care less, and I mean this. I'm telling you, if you don't take anything else from this today, I mean this. I could care less about how many wins and losses I have. I don't even know. I really don't know. As an assistant, as a head coach, I have no idea. I can tell you about the kids that graduated and have gone on to become great citizens in our society. I can tell you about all of them, when they got married, what school they went to, D1, D2, now pro, that I've touched. Stop focusing on your wins and losses as a coach. I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic, but stop coaching as your wins and losses. Because when it's all said and done, ain't nobody going to, 10, 20 years, ain't nobody going to remember how many wins you had. No one's going to care. But what they're going to care about is how you touch them as a human being and what that meant to you. Now, that rolls back to being an assistant coach. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to touch them, support the coach, touch them, and teach them about the game of basketball, about the game of life. Because if we all buy in, instead of saying, man, I don't know what the hell he's doing, I would have done this. Instead say, well, we got a goal. We got a purpose, right? And it's a process. And if we go off from that process, then we're all going in different directions. So it's like when you're herding cow. What if one cowboy's leading them that way and the other cowboy's leading that way and the truck's that way? You're gonna be there for a while, right? But if you lead them all and you stay within that process and you get there, it's a beautiful thing, right? And you can take a team the team I went to the championship with. The team I went to the championship with, it was a bunch of guys that you would have never thought would have been successful. Never thought. But they bought in. They bought in. And I know my assistant coach was kind of talking the same language, kind of. But even that kind of was enough for us to be successful. So for me, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be that guy for our head coach. I'm trying to be that guy that when he says, hey, I want to try this. All right. How do you want to do it? Well, I want to do this, this, and this. All right, coach. Well, I've seen it be successful that way. I've also seen it be successful this way. This is just another option. All right, let's get our heads together, because I feel like if him and I are on the same page, this is just me, if him and I are on the same page, can't nobody beat us. But try to get to know him. Try to get to know him. Try to get to, like, not just know him surfacely, but get to know him. Like, how does he treat his cat? How does he treat his dog? How does he treat his family? Get to know that. How does he react to his family, his mom, his dad, whatever it may be? Get to know him so that when you speak and you can speak the same language, you guys are on the same page. Because your program is not going to be successful if the two coaches are going in different directions. And that's important. As a head coach, how many head coaches we got in here? Dang. Can you guys do me a favor? Can you stand up, please? And here's why I had you stand up. How many people in here are striving to be an assistant coach? I want you guys to fill their email boxes with, Coach, I want to coach, right? If you want to be an assistant coach, you guys can sit down, I'm sorry. If you want to be an assistant coach, you got to hound them. And they're going to say, I'm going to tell you what they're going to say. They're going to say, dang, man, this dude keep emailing me. Dang, man, I can't get rid of him. Dang, man, dang, man, dang, man. Fifth or sixth email, man, this dude hungry. And then you're gonna say, well, come here, let's meet. Let's talk. Where you at? What's your philosophy? And know a philosophy. Know a philosophy and know something that you can bring to the table. Know an offense, know a defense, know special teams, know press, know something that you can come to the table with so that you don't just say, man, I just want to be a coach. I just want to coach. Right? Because every coach at the beginning of the season wants to win a championship, wants to win league, wants to win something. We don't do this to go, man, whatever happened. Right? But if we have a good foundation, which is very important, you have a good foundation, which starts with your assistant coaches in the background. Your assistant coach is talking about keeping everything in order, keeping everything, your files, your play, whatever it may be. Your assistant coaches in the background should be doing that and wanting and willing to do that. My background is, before I start coaching, I was in construction. And my first day of work, guy goes, the boss says, hey, I need to dig that ditch. And I need you to dig it. I'm like, all right, give me a shovel, let's go. He didn't tell me that the ditch had to be 3 feet wide and 6 feet deep by 50 feet long. It took me 2 weeks to build that ditch, and I'm shoveling and throwing. Blisters. You got to be willing to dig a ditch. As an assistant, you got to be willing to dig that ditch. And come home and not complain because your wife or your daughters or your whatever it may be, they had a tough day too. So I don't come home and go, man, he had me dig this ditch. I come on and say, where the ice? Where the ice? Because some days my hands would be stuck like this because it was around a shovel all day. And there's nothing above me because I'm a team player. There's nothing above me. Coach said, Coach, we need to clean the toilets. All right, man. I don't want to do it. It wouldn't be my main thing. What you want to do today? I want to clean the toilets. That's not. But if that's what's needed of me for us to be successful, for us to be a team, then I'll do it. Because I've done it. Sweep the floor. As a head coach, I grab the broom. First thing I do when I walk in, I grab the broom and I start sweeping. You know why? Because I want my team to know there's nothing above me. I'm not on a pedestal above you. We are all in this together. I want my assistant coach, I wanted him to say, hey, Coach, come in. Coach, we got any guys with grade issues? Maybe I can help them with what I know about English or what I know about math. How can we help them be successful in the classroom? When I first got to Wacom, and trust me, I'm not taking credit. We were a team. Like the head coach there, we were a team. It was in bad shape. How do we change it around? Well, first of all, we need to get guys. Everybody has to have a 3.0. You're not going to get people at a 3.0. Why? Because they just won't do it. Well, if that's the bar, they will do it. Coaches were talking earlier about the bar being Listen, if they want to play, they will do it. The reason why our brains aren't saying we got to get a 3.0 is because we're not pushing them to get a 3.0. You have to push them. If you don't push them, mediocre is okay. And let me just say this right here. Hey, I come from a black family. Obviously, you can see that. If I came home, back then it was a 2.0. If I came home with a 2.0, my mom literally said, you will not practice until you get a 2.5. Right? So if you tell your kids that and you hold them to that, they will do it because that's their love. Their love is basketball. They all think that basketball is the end all world. Everybody wants to be a pro basketball player. The reality of it is, you're probably not. So you, as leaders, are failing your kids if you don't tell them that basketball is not the end-all be-all. If you don't tell them, let's be successful in the classroom so that you can be hopefully a coach or hopefully some sort of mentor or leader. I like to consider myself a teacher. I don't like to consider myself a coach because I like to teach more than just basketball. I like to teach about life. One, figure out what you can bring to the program. Once you figure out what you can bring to that program, start hitting those coaches with emails. Coach, I got a background in defense, offense, whatever that may be. But bring something valuable. Know and understand that you're an extension of the head coach. So just like your head coaches, your point guard on the court is an extension of you, and you want him to be an extension of you, your assistant coach needs to be an extension of you. So teach them how to be an extension of you. Be open to their questions and be open to being honest with each other. Being open to having dialogue and being open to being okay with your assistant. Because you want your assistant coach to challenge you. You want him to. And assistant coach, you want that head coach to challenge you. And don't take it personal. The other day I saw a highlight of a kid. And it started with, "Hey Siri, how was my season last year?" You were all, and Siri answered the question. You were all NBA, all this, all that, all. There's haters in here that reminded me. Being honest, there's always going to be people who want your position, who don't think you're qualified for your position, but don't really know you, don't really know what you bring to the table, right? If you worry, if you want to be in the spotlight, no, man. There's eyes. There's eyes on you. There's eyes on you and thinking negative things. So be okay with that too. Coach needs to have confidence in you. He needs to know that, or she needs to know that if they were sick, if they had a meeting, if they couldn't be at practice or got kicked out of a game, that you can take over. You can take over and still bring that same message to them. At the beginning of the season, the head coach and the staff has a vision. They have a vision of how they want their season to go, how they want their team to be, how they're going to mold their team. You need to make sure you understand completely that vision and that every time you speak upon what's going on, you're speaking that vision. Be honest. Be okay with having tough conversations because there's going to be some. And I mean with the head coach, I mean with the other assistants, and I mean with the players. Be honest, and because when you go home at night, you want to be happy of the person that left that practice or left that meeting or left that whatever that conversation may be. And it doesn't have to be a confrontational conversation, but it needs to be one that you can come back and go, man, I'm happy I said that. I feel good about saying that because it was right. My right, right? Everybody's right is different, but my right, and so I feel good about that. Always provide direction, always provide encouragement, always make sure you're not talking your goals, you're talking the head coach's goals. All these high school coaches in here, make sure you know all these coaches. Because at the college level, that's probably the one thing that I need to get better at, is at the college level, you're always recruiting high school, right, or junior college. So you need to know how to recruit. You really need to know how to recruit. And I'm gonna say this: if you're at the college level, take a couple sales classes, whether they're online or not. But if you know how to sell, S-A-L-E, if you know how to sell. That's important when you're going into people's houses and talking about recruiting their kids. That's really important as to how in-depth they want you to be on the bench. So if they want those plays, or you want to say them, like if you see something that'll work, you want to say it. Say it. And all they can do is say, nope, we ain't going to do that. Which is good. Which is okay. Like be okay with that. Because honestly, from me being an assistant for a long time, me being a head coach, I may say, no, we ain't doing that. Just because that's a reactionary thing. But 2 or 3 minutes later, We're probably going to be doing that. And you're saying, and you're looking at the other sisters going, told you. No, I'm just playing. Your purpose has to be more than just coaching. So, because I did that. I did the volunteer thing. Like I said, I was in construction. I was making money. But I had all this knowledge I felt like in my brain that I just wanted to hit players in the face with. I just want to take this knowledge. Here, take that. And so that outweighed the money part of it, or the fame and fortune, or whatever you may be part of it. And so I volunteered, man. I spend the whole day running track hoes. I now learn how to run big equipment. I'm running big equipment because I don't want to. I was like, man, look, if we're gonna do a show, I'm gonna take a course on how to run a track hoe, because the shoveling thing ain't working for me, right? So now I take that to where I'm making really good money, to saying, man, taking this knowledge that I've learned through my playing career and coaching career, blah blah blah, and just passing it on and seeing people's kids' eyes light up that the money didn't matter. The fame didn't matter, the t-shirt didn't matter, I didn't care, right? So I hope that's answering your question. It's got your purpose has to be bigger than just the things you're gonna get, it's about the things you're gonna give.
Well, really more so like, what made you choose, so I don't know if you have more than one option to be an assistant, but what made you choose to be an assistant at Wacom versus somewhere else, is what I'm thinking.
Well, there wasn't nowhere else to go in Bellingham. I mean, if I'm being honest.
So what you liked about Wacom?
No, I was being honest. There was nowhere else to go. So I knew I didn't want to work with high school kids because of the parents. Being honest. I did high school I did high school 2 years in San Jose. Anybody here from San Jose? Okay, so I'm from Southern California. Grew up in Southern California, Pasadena, California. Went to Pasadena High School. We were one of the top ranked teams in the country. We were actually #1 in the country my year. Whatever. Moved to San Jose. It was a whole different story. It was like the 15th guy on the team. His mom and dad were coming to every game like, he don't know what he's doing. And I'm being dead serious. So this coach, who was a math teacher, was like, he speaked with his fingers. So he's like, look, I don't want none of y'all kids come bring y'all. Dead serious. Now I'm a coach, and I'm like, what the? Yeah, what he said. Anyway. So he's like, I don't want, if your parents come talk to me, you off the team. I was like, dang. He was dead serious too. Dead serious. And only one dude, this was funny. So only one guy's parents came because they didn't care. They was like, whatever, we'll go to the private school across the street. Why is my son not playing? Looked at the son and said, oh, you don't want to be on the team. Like right in front of the parents. And the kid was like, I'm not kidding you. The kid was like, I don't even know them. I said, it was comical. Anyway, so I did that, and I was like, man, at the college level, you ain't got to deal with parents. You just don't. Now, they're going to say what they want to say. They're going to say it, but you can just say, look, he's got an option. He can be here. College is more important, blah, blah, blah. School is more important. Or he can choose to leave. And that's why I wanted to be on the college level. And again, Wacom, college-wise, was the only junior college in the area. Yeah.
I'm sure you guys are looking, saying, why is this guy overdressed? But I was just running around the block and figured I'd just stop by and share a few words with you guys. But more importantly, I say this because I've learned at an early age, you never know who you're going to meet. First impression is everything, but more importantly, you guys are coaches, and I'm here to speak on scouting services. This is to represent that it's a huge and big business. Huge and big business. As the gentleman that just spoke, for myself, I was a juvenile probation officer. God honest truth. Everyone looks at my stature and says, oh, I'm sure you was a vicious guy, had your kids in order. I definitely didn't. I dealt with the worst of the worst in Houston, Texas. And I'm in Houston as a probation officer is kind of shaky because you're going into these homes. I didn't have a gun. I didn't have a radio. All I had was my mouth. So early on out of college, I'm putting my degree to work with speech communication, talking this kid or these kids off a ledge with their parents, violent situations, and having to have a rapport with those kids to get them to do right and get off probation. But that got old real quick. And it led to the profession in which I'm in now. Summer of 2008, good friend of mine who's a coach now at Connecticut University, I would go to Vegas. This is when Vegas was Vegas, y'all. Everyone would go to Vegas in July, see the kids play, this one, that one. And the first thing I noticed was we make up 95% of the talent on the court. I'm seeing kids, this is the summer, Andre Drummond, Cameron Ridley, Isaiah Austin, all those guys. Talented kids. And I see the college section, and they range, no disrespect to any Caucasian or non-black coaches that are here, but just like this crowd, you see college coaches. When I went to look at the evaluators, it was nobody that looked like me. It was nobody that looked like the kids that were out there playing. So I've always had a mind that always kept churning. And it dawned on me, I said, well, wait a minute. When you look at hockey, hockey is dominated by Eastern Europeans and Canadians. A lot of the decision makers in hockey are Canadians and Eastern Europeans. When you look at baseball, it's dominated by Latinos and Caucasians, and rightfully so. Their managements, Caucasian and Latin Americans. So why was it in basketball we don't have a representation? Respect to all of you at all the levels that you guys are at and where you're headed, but we have enough coaches. We have enough coaches. So I initially, that very year, I hit the ground running. Supported my wife, thank God, and God bless her. She had my back, because here it is, I'm just a city worker. I hit the ground covering every platform there was. Adidas, Nike, Under Armour, Dino's. We all know some of the guys in here who know Dino's. I would cover his events. Ryan Silver. I would go down to Utah, guys from the Utah Prospects. And I was covering all these events because I wanted to make a name, not just for me, but for us. Because we sometimes get lumped into, well, you're just a recruiter. You're just an X and O guy. Well, you just do all the errands. You're the film guy. But we don't ever have no one that says, well, he was the decision maker. He was the one that said that this kid was better than that kid. And as time went on, I built up my reputation in doing the right thing. So the first thing I tell people, if anyone's on the fringe of, you know what, coach, it might not be my thing, I'm here to let you know some of the things from a scouting service perspective. That can be very lucrative, but you can't go into it with the mindset that I'm here to get rich. I'm here to swindle this university into taking this kid that may not be no good. That's not the angle you have to take in having a productive scouting service. First and foremost, you have to be honest. When the coach that just spoke previously, he hit it right on the head. You have to be honest about what you see. Because the best thing about a scouting service is you get a chance to get out way before any university does. And what's unfair to them, we see the transfer rate. Some of you guys probably have kids that either in the portal, headed to the portal, or will be in the portal in the future. Well, one of the things about a scouting service is just being honest about what you see and the relationships you build with people. Because people are going to call you nonstop around the clock. And at the end of the day, when you know a kid can't play a certain place, it's just your job to be honest. And you can say it you don't have to kill a kid, but if a coach is asking you about a kid that his level may be Seattle University, maybe Eastern Washington, it may be Utah State. But if Washington comes calling you a Washington State, you just ask them, are you guys giving out scholarships? Are you guys in a give back mode? Because what you're trying to do, and you have to understand your clients, you have to understand who you're dealing with and the help that they need. So it doesn't hurt to watch them during the season, get out and go watch a game here and there to understand your clients and who you're dealing with. Because the argument that I get from a lot of guys who are just first starting is, oh, well, it's not their money. It's not their money, but it is their budget. And they have to deal with that properly, so you have to make sure that you're getting them adequate information and building their program to take it to the next level. I got a great quote, and I even give it to some of you guys so you think about it. Coach CY that's at Florida State, he says one of his biggest pet peeves from high school coaches is when people come up to him and says, well, man, I got a player for your level. Well, what's his level? Now, granted, you would think, well, Florida State and ACC. He says, nah, that's not my level. His level is the pros. Because every level that you're thinking at, that coach doesn't want to be there forever. Now, when you get to the highest of levels, sure, coaches want to stay there. But even at that level, they can't just get ACC players. But it's easy to say, okay, the ACC needs a pro, but let's knock it down a level. If we're talking about Seattle University, well, what's their level? They need a player one up to help them get from one level to the next. If you're at a Fresno State, I need a fringe Pac-12 player to help us get to the next level. So what you're saying that what your level is, that's not what you necessarily need to be productive at that level. So as part of my job with a scouting service, I mean, of course, locally you have Paulo Banchero. He can play anywhere in the country. Anywhere in the country. But at the same time, now it's not about where he can play, it's the actual fit for his style of play as a player where he can go to the next level, as well as helping at university. So, I mean, I'm going to be a homer. There's nothing wrong with him going to Washington. Perfectly fine. Mom, Dad, they all went there. Again, as a scouting service, that's part of my job, to know all that information so that the people that are recruiting him understand what they're going up against. Now, I don't share any, because I have a lot of relationships. Some close from when I was knee-high to a grasshopper, to middle age when I first started liking girls, to me being grown with a family now. So I can't blend the two. I can't show favorites to any different level. I have to treat everyone the same. So again, in being another productive scouting service, you have to be not only honest, but you have to be fair in what you're doing. Now, the biggest thing when people say, well, why you? Or just because you went to an event, what made you want to jump out there? You have to have a passion for what you do. Again, he alluded to, I was raised in Queens, New York. I was fortunate. I had two great mentors that some of you are older. I mean, most of you are older, so you should know. But to have Kenny Smith and Kenny Anderson grow up 2 buildings across from me. Left Rack City, where I was born and raised, is a 1 square mile radius. It's 20 buildings, 50,000 people in that square mile radius. So we had a rich soil of basketball in my neighborhood. So when I'm really, really young and I'm seeing Kenny Smith and I'm hearing about North Carolina, and he went on to do great things, and then I'm seeing Kenny Anderson and he did all the things that he did. He was the number 2 pick, went on to a long career. He even played with the Sonics for a while. Then go on, a good friend of mine, Kamani Young, he went on to UTEP. Then we had another All-American, Tyleek Brown, who won a national championship at UConn. These are the things that I was raised around. So just naturally, things stuck with me. No, I wasn't All-American. I was a Division I player. But when you're rubbing elbows with these type of people, it rubs off on you and it becomes you. That's something that I challenge each and every single one of you guys in here. For the star players that you do have, yeah, they're going to go on to do great things, but what about those other guys? I was that 6th, 7th guy. Sometimes I started, sometimes I didn't. But I was able to take away from my life experiences that helped me to the position I'm in now. So now that's just my neighborhood. Now let's go to the AAU team I played with. I played with Riverside Church, which if you ask many of the older evaluators, one of the greatest teams ever put together, with the likes of Lamar Odom, Ron Artest, Elton Brand, Speedy Claxton played with us sometimes, Eric Barkley, who was also a pro. So you talking about, there was 5 pros on one AAU team. Lost 1 game in a 3-year window. I was on that team. There's a picture, I think I even have it in my phone, I probably could have put it up. I might have been the guy taking the picture. Just being honest. I have no shame of that moment, because it's a moment in history and it's part of my story. But again, so when people say, well, how do you know what something looks like? I saw Elton Brand at 14. I saw Lamar Odom at 15. I saw Ron Artest at 17. I seen all the life tribulations from Lamar's mother passing away, to his grandmother raising him, to his father coming home, and the many issues that kind of came to light due to the current life we live in now with the Kardashian family and things like that. I seen Speedy Claxton with his huge family put everyone on his shoulders, not go to a huge university, stay at Hofstra, and still get to the same level that we were all started at one level with. So for me, it was ingrained in me from a young age, from a very, very young age. So I'm proud to say where my basketball acumen came from, because these are the people that I practiced with, we played 21 with, We cried, we laughed, we graduated, we did all these life things that, you know, made me, again, who I am and made them who they are. So then the next step from there, which I think this really kind of qualifies me to do what I do, I played at every single level a kid can go through. So I went to school in New York City for 4 years. I was rather young. I know we live in a current age, which I personally label the age-roids era, where these kids are 16 in the 9th grade, 17 in the 10th grade. Like, that's beyond me. I was born in 1978, October 29th. So when I started high school, I was 13 years old. Now let's think about this now. How many 13-year-olds you know in high school? It just doesn't happen now. So granted, I did go to prep school. But granted, even with a year of prep school, I still came out 18 years old. I laugh now, I'm not ashamed to say, but this is a true fact. In the class of 2020, there are 3 kids, Kay Cunningham, AJ Hogert, Jaden Springer. They're born on the same day, September 25th. They're all in the class of 2020. All 3 of them are 3 different ages. One is 19, one will be 18, and one will be 17. So like Jaden Springer, who'll be 17, that was me. But this is 1996. I knew I was too young. I was just getting into girls, feeling myself. Like I wasn't ready to go to nobody's college. So I went to prep school. Had a great time at Northfield Mount Hermon, which I swear to this day is probably the best prep school in the world. It was an experience like no other. I met people from all over the world. We literally had a representation of 200 countries at that school, which is in Northfield, Mass. If anyone wants information, by all means, I'll be here to the end of this, and I can share with you whatever you need to know about John Carroll and that great school. It was a great experience for me as well, because I was able to mature. I lived away from home. But again, we went, at that time, the furthest the school ever went. We lost in the championship to Winchendon, which was a powerhouse at the time. And since, Northfield has taken off. If you look it up, they've won several New England championships in the toughest prep school league in the country. So from there, I go to Hampton University, HBCU. Any HBCU alums here? Shout out to you guys. Hampton University. Got recruited by Steve Murfeld. Came and sold me and my mother everything you want to sell somebody, only to get me there and lie to me. And it was frustrating because, you know, when you're a young kid and things are not explained to you, you're going through them and you just know hard work. Again, my parents are from my mother was born in the 40s as well as my dad, so I have that era of parents who work hard, you'll be rewarded. Well, I wasn't rewarded. I was going to class, I was doing everything I wanted to do, had great teammates. We had actually a great team. But when you're a young man like that, you get turned off. As lovely as those guys that tell you Hampton is, home by the sea, I had to go. So I went to junior college. So now I'm in Texas, which is how I got to Texas. I'm at Angelina Junior College. East Texas, complete culture shock from a New York City guy. Lufkin, Texas is worlds away from New York City. But it was a learning experience. Played there the first year, first 4 games, break my wrist. Broke my scaphoid bone in my left hand, tried to go dunk, took a charge, fell over, broke my wrist. Now I have to sit out, medical red shirt, come back the next year. Play, go from there, go to Texas State. So with that covering right there, I think from an eye standpoint, I probably experienced more things that you would ever see as a player that you could possibly go through. And again, adding that with the education that I had, the background that I had, the people that I play with, I definitely feel that I'm fit to go through that. Now, at the same time, there's some people in this industry that know. They haven't been through that. The crazy part, some people never played basketball. I find that kind of hard to, but I can't say that because there's probably some coaches here that never played, but they're probably pretty damn good coaches. But they put that time in, and I'm quite sure there's a baseline that they get through that could show that it's parallel to what they're doing in the industry. So again, from there, I don't necessarily question anyone that hasn't been through the same things that I've been through, but when I see many of the things that we go through now, and I bring you forward to the current state that we're in, and some of the do's and don'ts that I would tell some of you coaches, or even some of you parents when you're dealing with a scouting service, it's certain things that you just can't, you shouldn't do, and there's certain things that it's just gonna be what it's gonna be. First thing with me, for myself and my service, like, I don't do any rankings. It's all personal bias, opinions. When you're talking about a ranking, I get it if you see 10 guys, if you see 25 guys. You might see 50 guys that you can put in some type of order. But please explain to me, how do you determine the difference between 51 and 78? Especially if you're just going off of what? Your word, what you may have seen number 51 5 times, you've seen 78 once. Is that fair? No. So I'm definitely, as I get older, believe it or not, a man of color, I've become a big proponent to analytics. Because I'm here I tell many of my friends that are athletes that's trying to get into management with teams like myself, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. So you better off learning it, understand the formulas. That way now when you get in certain rooms and you're debating certain players, now you're not excusing yourself. Because I know some guys who literally in NBA offices come draft time or trade deadline will excuse themselves, which I think is one of the worst things to do, instead of understanding what you're talking about. So when it comes to rankings, and some of you guys may know all the national services and things like that, there's no reason to fight that. They're going to do what they're going to do regardless. You get in the gym with your child or your daughter or your son, and you just work. You find someone that you can trust, because see, that's the question you should ask some of those national media outlets, and that'll let you know what you're dealing with. Well, what does my son need to work on? Never mind what their ranking is. Ask them what do they need to work on. That'll let you know the audience you're dealing with. Because I can watch a kid, it doesn't take too long for me to watch a kid and you telling me, well, man, he's a 6'5" point guard. Really? Man, he does this, he averages that. Okay, well, why he can't dribble with his left hand? That's real hard for you to tell me he a point guard. We running a setup the left side and he can't get up the left side. The era of bringing it up like Mark Jackson, we can't do that. we can't do that. We can't do that at all. Or not for nothing to my vertically challenged people. But when we got a midget of a guard, and man, he averages 50, but he can't pick up his man 94 feet, and he can't turn him, or he turns it over 5-6 times a game, he can't go to nobody's university. You just can't. You can't be that small of a liability that when you score, you run it back to the other foul line like you 6'3". No, you need to find your man, and you need to disrupt this offense, because that's where your value is at. So again, these are some of the conversations, and I challenge all of you, when you run into some of these people that run national services and they have national machines behind them, ask them some of those questions. And you'll be surprised, like, you don't know what he's talking about. And you'll be surprised, because they really don't. But they have the machine behind them. So it's easy to just say what they want and, oh, well, I got ESPN with me, so no one's going to question them. Or I have Rivals with me, or I have Scout.com. And nothing against those guys, because some of those guys are really decent guys. But bringing it back to what I just started with, can somebody tell me why none of those services have anyone black working for them? Not one of them. I literally get that same answer when I ask them. So you really trying to tell me y'all couldn't hire nobody of color? None of you. So y'all got all the answers. Mind you, only one of them played. To his credit, Jerry Myers, all-state player. Matter of fact, it's crazy. He was the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Tennessee over a guy by the name of Anthony Hardaway. True story. True story. So with Jerry Myers, I might give him that. But there's like 12 other guys in his lane that never bounced the ball a day in their life. Never bounced the ball. But I don't get caught up in too much and pouncing on those guys because of what they don't do. Because I know when I hear something, who it came from, I know how to take it in, discard it, I know how to take it in and register and grow from there. So, but from there, with my service, and one of the biggest things I kind of get a fight with now, when I initially started, I can come in a room, I can go to a game, I could sit up in the corner and I could just watch a kid. And trust me, that was some of the best times in my life. Because you got the true honesty from parents, from coaches, from handlers, from kids. Now it's like, and I kind of stress to my man, please don't say it, like, Nike has enough marketing. Trust me, they do. Nike doesn't need any more marketing on their behalf of me. I have my own service and what I do, and I also work with them as well. But I'm here to push forward what I do because, again, there's not a lot like me. And I just continually do the right thing by the right people and getting the information that they need. So now, again, with a successful scouting service, it's getting coaches information to help them make timely decisions that'll help them go forward. So in my case, because I do work with Nike, I'm able to provide whether the time for our events before anyone else, before it hits the regular social media or regular media, so that they can start planning flights, hotel rooms, who's going where, because some of the coaches that are in here or that may speak will let you know they meet constantly and they try to be ahead of the curve to get them where they need to be. So in my case, when the NCAA camp, which I'm sure you all probably have your opinions on it just like I do, when it came through Houston, part of my job was, one, finding them the proper areas to stay, some of the proper places to eat, some of the proper places not to go. Do I have some coaches that are single, like running the street? Of course I do. I even try to accommodate them with information of places where they need to be and not need to be. I have coaches that they look to go to church, they look to go to the synagogue, wherever. I try to provide that information for them because at the end of the day, I have to separate myself from other scouting services. And again, they'll let you know, because at the space that I'm at now, it's not a money grab. I'm not just shaking them down for work. And that's why I was explaining to Coach Reed outside as well, that I have a passion that I want to see them all win. I do. I want to see them all win. Now, the funniest part, or ironic, as I spoke about being a minority in this space, much of the help that I've received actually has been from people that weren't black. And that's an internal fight that I have sometime that, wow, like that's tough. Someone who, before I got with Nike, Mike Schrage, he's the head coach now at Elon. Mike Schrage was at Stanford. And after Stanford, he went to Butler, and Butler, Ohio State. So that's another thing in this industry. You're not just with someone for that time being and where they are. I want to say, isn't Coach Cameron Dollar at Washington now? Or is he still at Seattle? He's at Washington. I'm sure he wants to be a head coach. And everything is great now in Washington, extremely big budget, they can do what they want. But if he takes a head coaching job at Alcorn State, as a scouting service, I can't turn my back because he's at Alcorn State. And he may not have it financially to meet my quota of whatever my price point may be, but you don't ruin that relationship. You make sure you stand by him, because again, if you want to see him win, you're going to try to support him in every way, shape, form, or fashion for him to get back so one day he may be the head coach at Washington. So I say that with Coach Schrage, who's a Caucasian man. One of his assistant coaches was at Stanford. And I figure as a brother, what's the first thing I should be able to walk up to you? My man, what's going on? How you feel? Tap you up, do the whole thing, rub our heads, do whatever. That should be the icebreaker right there, right or wrong. Easy. I meet this brother. I'm a hip hop baby. So there's certain things in my mind from a hip hop space that I operate from. And I can always remember what Chuck D said, this had to be 88. Every brother ain't a brother. Every brother ain't a brother. So I'm standing there, young guy. I come professional all the time. I don't look crazy. I don't smell like nothing crazy. And he's just looking at me like, and I'm already getting the energy though. He's not trying to hit me. No problem, shake his hand, thank you. That was the EYBL stop in Sacramento. And granted, I wasn't with Nike at the time. So I'm in Sacramento, meet him, give me his card, I give him his, pretty much gave me the runaround, wasn't trying to hit me. I literally, the very next session, I run into Coach Schrage. I send him my invoice Monday morning, had me paid by Wednesday. Didn't know me from a can of paint. Wasn't a big machine like Nike behind me. But he saw something in me. He saw my work because, again, I stand by what I do and what I know. And he respected that. So I definitely learned, again, every brother ain't a brother. It's unfortunate, but we got to keep going. We got to keep going. And, you know, the gentleman is no longer in the business. But now, even with Schrage at Elon, I can't turn my back on him just because he's no longer at a big powerhouse school that can get me paid in 3 days. No, it's bigger than that because I want to see him win and go on and do great things. So more than anything, I say all the things that I say to say, it's all about relationships. Coaching, scouting services, management, it's a big fraternity. Good people know good people, bad people know bad people. And at the end of the day, you have to choose which side you're going to be on. I'm here to tell you, bad people don't last a long time. They really don't. They don't last a long time, so you have to do what you have to do to not only represent yourself, your family, but then now your employer and who you work with, who's going to help us get to this next level.
What's your process for evaluating players? Like, how do you start when you're watching a guy for the first time?
Well, if I walk into a gym, so let's just use the local kid, Paulo, say I'd never seen him before. I actually talk to some of the local people. I don't want to talk to the coach, don't want to talk to the parents. I want to see what the general feel on this kid is, and how good they may perceive him to be, or how good they don't perceive him to be. And when I go watch him, the aesthetics, the first thing that jumps out at you, size and mobility and what position you say he is, but he's this position, go from there, and then just watch what he does. Does he play hard? Does he give his all? How good of a teammate is he? All those things play into my overall breakdown of that player and what they do. And then you have to take them out of that Seattle reign and now put them in a regional reign. Okay, well, let's look at the West Coast. Where does he lay in that? And granted, players, they trek on and they move on to where they go, and you get to see them against other people. So if I come see him in Seattle, then I come see him at Dino's Pangos event, maybe on the West Coast, then now he's going to go to something bigger, maybe one of the sneaker brands he's going to play with. It starts to get bigger and bigger, and then now the separation comes about. The only reason, like I said, I don't get into the ranking piece because it is just personal, what you like and how you feel. You understand what I'm saying? Because I'm not going to lie, if there was a 5'3" guy that averaged 40, from my perception, like I remember Muggsy Bogues, Shantae Rogers, John Linehan, these are all great little guards that I had to play against or I watched. So if you're a little guard not doing that, my personal view of you as a small guard is like, that ain't going to take you to you're a great high school player. And sometimes that's, as a coach, some things that's what we have to accept. Some guys may just be great high school players. They may be just great college players. That doesn't necessarily mean he a pro. Because that's one thing, if anyone, I can send you any of my, I don't throw that word around loosely at all. Because again, I was fortunate the way I was raised. I know what a pro look like. And eventually when they get to the pro, so to say somebody's a pro just because you're a fan of them, because you really like them, because you dated his aunt, or no. That, I don't get swayed. I don't get swayed. And that's another thing, let me be clear too. I'm 100% scandal free. I've never touched a parent. I've never touched a kid. Because that's another thing too. I want you guys to ask yourself, why are some of these people around these kids so much? They don't have a girlfriend. They don't have a wife. No, like we laugh. We laugh. We laugh. But I promise you, how many people get introduced into the game of basketball because they're the money guy? But that money guy don't have no kids, he don't have no wife. He always want to be around the kids at the pool when their shirts is off, or they want to be in the locker room around it. And this is something that we just blow over our head, that nobody looks at. That's kind of disturbing. That's some of the things, believe it or not, there's a lot of things in our industry at the AAU level and the high school level that we just don't even really like, you know what, I never looked at that. Then when it comes out, it's crazy. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the situation in Iowa. Iowa Barnstorm guy. This guy created a fake page. So he got, no disrespect to you guys, 6 guys on his team. He creates a page, he finds out all their social medias, he creates a fake page as if he's a young girl and having them send him nude pictures. Dude got 350 some odd years in jail, rest is history.
So the service that you provide, when you look at the spectrum of the industry that you're in, what percentage are doing what you're doing as opposed to just doing mostly analytics?
That's it. Less than 1%. That's a lame, that's free game to a lot of you. I just started incorporating with these gentlemen, and Chris Walker is a gentleman that's going to speak later. He works with these people out of Dallas. They have a system called ePlay. And we have a partnership, and we've been in conversations, and they've actually helped me provide analytics to my reports. And I'm going to tell you how I became a fan. So Chris calls me one morning, And when you guys meet Chris, he's just a bottle of champagne. He's a bottle of bubbly. He's all over the place, but he's a great guy. Very informative, been in the business for over 20 years. But he calls me one Saturday morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, Chris, what are you doing on my line right now? Like, I'm not trying to talk. I'm not even up. Like, why are you calling me? But he gets into this whole analytical spill, what it means, how it helps you separate, and it takes the feeling out of quote unquote rankings. So when he breaks it down to me, he said, do you have the website to MBPA and all the stats? I said, yeah, send him the stats. Now at this point, I've done my report already on the MBPA Top 100. He turns around with his group and he does the analytics from that camp. Knowing what I wrote and seeing the analytics and how it broke down of who was the most valuable to who was the least valuable, it blew my mind. I jumped right in. I was all to hear what they were talking about. We're now trying to partner a situation with Nike Basketball, with that group. And it was amazing because, again, I watched it with the eye test, because that's the thing, too. Men gonna lie, women gonna lie, numbers are gonna lie. Numbers do lie to you. Numbers don't tell you the whole story, but your eyes don't lie to you. They don't lie to you. You know what you just saw. It's not lying to you. So with the analytics, and if anyone in here, if you know someone who's big on analytics, and I just told you less than 1% of the industry does something like that, that's a straight lane to jump into, because no one is doing that. And again, I've only, at this point now, I've done 3 reports with analytics tied to what I saw. And by the grace of God, it has matched up. It showed the value in what was what. So that's definitely a new lane to get into. Amen.
Staying on analytics, as you talk much about breaking into that space, that scouting services,
Mm-hmm.
approaching coaches with that information that they need that elevates their performance, that
Mm-hmm.
they didn't even maybe know that they need. So if numbers were stripped out of it and you're making that pitch, you're triggering people, basically saying, oh, Seattle, you take Wazoo, what are you smoking? But there's no numbers behind it. How do you find the data that he's talking about, that Chris is doing supplements, maybe someone who's earlier on in your path, who doesn't have all that credibility?
Well, I mean, so going back to the school part, it's never your job with a scouting service to tell a school who to take. All you can do is inform them. That's all you can do. Carson Edwards went up to Purdue, set the Big Ten on fire. Kid got drafted. He should have a fruitful NBA career. I told everyone that would listen in Texas, say, man, this kid could play. Oh, man, well, he not this. And again, going back to the point I was saying about the aesthetics of how he looks. Carson Edwards is like a small bulldog. But if you look at the small things, he did everything you would want a small guard to do. And he can make shots. So what are we talking about? But certain people, it's a numbers game. Because that's another thing, too, that sometimes us on the other side, or those that are not tied into understanding scholarship numbers and what you need, they just can't take them. They get caught in that space. So from a scouting service space, you should never have to tell a school who to take. But going back to your question, at this point now, almost every platform has a database in which they track the numbers. So the good thing that I'm learning, I'm starting to learn formulas with analytics, is understanding how to create those formulas. Because again, numbers can lie to you. People manipulate numbers too. People manipulate numbers too. So the good thing is, but when you're able to add the eye test of what you saw and the analytics, now, you're in a whole nother lane that no one in this industry right now is doing that. No one is doing that. But analytics, to go a step further, let's bring it back to Paulo, the local kid. The way that he's playing, he's likely not to be in college for a long time. So what body of work do we have to go off of? Let's say he goes to UW. He's only at UW for 7.5 months. Coach Hopkins, great staff, those guys are doing what they're doing. Do they really know that kid? Whereas I've dealt with Paulo maybe the last 3 years. Next year we'll make 3 years on the EYBL. I'm not saying I'm an expert or anything, but if you had the chance with someone that's been around for 3 years or somebody that's been around for 7 months, they both got numbers to support the factors in what you're dealing with. That's how I'd end up brokering to the NBA level. That mindset that you don't have the backing, trust me, that's not the way to go about it.
No, it's okay.
Like, go about it from a standpoint of, you know what you saw, you know what you have to support what you're saying, stand by your work. Stand by what you want to do, because again, your eyes ain't lied to you. You don't have the agenda where some of these, so that you understand, some of these scouting services and the people that write for them and even the big machines, they write for school websites. It's money driven. It's pay for this article. Fan bases pay for that. Or when they put the money sign, that's payment. So what you think they're gonna write towards? When it's time to write about UW or write about Oregon or write about UCLA. So you have a duty to this fan base to make them feel good, and they play that game. There's certain kids I know now where they're gonna go, but it's not my job to create a website to milk money out of you because you're a big time Oregon fan, and I'm gonna talk about all these guys that I know are not coming to Oregon. But you're such a fanatic, you're willing to pay it. Financially, $6.95 a month, please. It's nothing, I'll pay that. I met a gentleman from Low Gator Country. It's the first year of the EYBL. Came through Houston. I was fortunate, it was in my backyard. Bradley Beal, Michael Kidd, Gilchrist, Austin Rivers, and those guys, that was their class. So there's a gentleman sitting there, and everyone has a different writing style. Some people need a pen and paper, some people need a computer. Again, I'm from the hip hop generation. Believe it or not, I write it in my head. Like it doesn't take me a lot to see what I saw and know what I saw, and then reference back to it and put it down on paper. We all know it's kind of some rappers write like that. They don't necessarily write it down, but they visualize it and then they put it down that way. But anyway, this gentleman, he's sitting there, and I knew he was a scout, so I went up and introduced myself. So he looks up at me, he said, what do you want? And I'm like, well, so I want to introduce myself. I said, who are you? Said, flicks his card up at me. Read it, Gator Low Country. So, okay. Again, it's all about relationships. A good friend of mine, Rob Lanier, at that time was assistant coach at Florida. So I said, you know my guy Rob Lanier. So I kind of got his interest now. Oh, you know Rob Lanier? And before I can even say, well, I'm going to call him. Like almost he questioning if I know who I know. So he then calls Rob, says my name all wrong. Oh, I'm standing here with a DeWine Irvine. He was like, and I could hear Rob say, I don't know a DeWine. He said, I know a Dane Irvine. Oh, you know him? Oh, I'll call you back. Man talks my head off for 2 days. For 2 days, the remaining 2 days of EY, he talks my head off. But he also showed me, again, the bias he had built in. He writes for Gator Low Country. He says he charges $7.95 for regular members. He says he charges $15.95 for the elite package. This man said he had over 79,000 followers. And no, I don't think he got that whole cut, but even a portion of that. And this is a month, mind you. This ain't a year. This ain't $7.95 a year. This is a month. Unbelievable. So I could have easily saw that money get rich scheme, but I was kind of disgusted by it because I'm just like, come on, man. Like, that's how you doing it? And I could tell that man never played a game of basketball a day in his life. Never. My man.
I'd like you to explain to people, I'm Chris, my man, by the way.
Oh yeah, it's Chris Walker. I ain't got my glasses on.
Exactly. About the AAU world. You do deal with the AAU world, how high school coaches feel about it, how college coaches treat AAU coaches, and how parents handle that world, and what role you play in that. And should high school coaches be more accepting of it, right? Basically what the NCAA rules centered around recruiting for AAU guys and not high school guys. Are trying to change that now. Talk about that relationship and what it should be like in the perfect world for the kids.
I mean, I'm sure you guys have mixed feelings on it. Me personally, I think it should be some type of a seamless transition from one to the next. Yes, do they step on you guys' toes where as soon as your season's over, they're taking your guys, and then as soon as AAU's over, you're taking them back? You don't necessarily have to have that type of relationship. I think one of the richest areas, if I had to pick an area outside of Seattle, which Seattle's doing well nationally, but Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. probably has the strongest concentration of talent, of guys that are going to the next level, successful, and go to the pros. But the biggest thing that they have the best, hands down, is the high school to AAU coach relationship. Keith Stevens runs Teams Takeover, where literally he has 2 guys from DeMatha, 2 guys from Paula VI, 2 guys from St. John's, and 2 guys from WACC. These are schools all in the same division. All in the same division. That if you ever get a chance, you're in DC, second week in December, or if you ever get a chance to catch a game in the wintertime in the DC area, to go see it is something like no other. But they compete, they try to kill each other, but the relationships he has with all those schools, they're all on the same page. Because at the end of the day, the goal has to be the kids. It has to be the kids. It has to be the betterment. How can you're giving me this young man? I got to have him ready, prepared to go to college to become a man. It has to be that, and everyone has to be on that same page, from parents, AAU coach, high school coach. I'm not a big handler guy, no disrespect to any handlers if you're in the room, but I'm just not a handler guy. And it's funny because as I have my own kids, I'd be damned somebody going to speak on the behalf of me and my wife. I'm just not for that. There's no reason why they should even be in the equation. So a great question of any of you guys dealing with a handler, and I learned this from a good friend of ours in Houston, Jim Hicks. Ask some of these handlers, are they investing or they're helping? And see what their answer is going to be. Because if they're investing, guess what? They want something back. They want something back. If they're helping, they're giving what they have to help you along the way in the process and don't want nothing back from it. So I think that relationship needs to be more on the same page. And we're the adults. Like as the AAU coach at high school, we're the adults. Now granted, unless someone then shot a pistol at you, somebody did something to one of your loved ones, I get it. You can't sit down with that other party. But if that didn't happen, there's no reason why, for the betterment of these kids, that you guys can't sit down, have a civilized conversation, agree to disagree. You very well could do that. And that won't be an issue. So I know I have to wrap. Any other questions before I go?
So that sounds like a really elaborate thing you got going, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you said a big part of it is what you saw. So
Mm-hmm.
putting together your team, because you can't be at every event, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you value what somebody else saw? When you put together your squad, it's like, I can come to you and say, hey, I saw this, but what I see may not have a whole lot of value to it.
Right.
How do you go about putting together your team of people that's going out, and how do you?
There's no team. It's me. Yeah, there's no team. It's just me. So the first thing, which is actually fortunate, because whether it's Nike, whether it's Basketball Illustrated, whether it's something for an NBA team, they all go hand in hand. So when I was fortunate to go to the FIBA 18U this summer in Greece. When I did that report, when I'm adding something for Nike, I add the Nike pertinent information. When I'm sending it to the colleges and universities, I'm taking out kids that are not going to college. Then when I send it to the NBA level, these guys are going to be in the NBA draft. So it's not, I trust my own eyes. And it's really, 80% of my job is being there. It's being there. When I initially saw that back in 2008, it wasn't that a Jerry Meyer or Frank Burleson, any of those guys who've been doing it for years, their resumes don't have nothing to do with if we're both sitting on that line watching the kid play, and I say, Coach, he can't dribble with his left hand. How's he a point guard? Whatever they feel and how they see it, that's how they see it. But I know what I saw. And over time, just through the clients that I have now, I think it speaks for itself. That's what I was explaining to my man. Stay true to what you do and what you see, because people are going to realize, we know he kind of side with this school and Arizona's his guys, and they know you shooting it straight from the hip. You being real with it. So yeah, I don't know. I don't send anyone out. If I don't, and that's the thing too, it's okay not to see someone. It's not, I made that mistake and I learned the hard way. I was a big PJ Fuller guy. A good friend of mine, Tate, I don't know, some of you guys know Tate being in the Seattle area. He said, man, nah, it's this kid at Federal Way, man. J.D. McDaniels is better than him. I'm like, man, PJ Fuller, I seen him put in work around this country. That kid can play. I'm telling you, J.D. McDaniels is better. Okay. Time went on. I was wrong. So now when we got to this year, Torrey Eason, that was at Federal, it was nothing for me to question. Number one, I hadn't seen the kid. I hadn't seen him. And I learned just a year previous with Jaden that, you know what, you can have that one, Tate. And sure enough, Torrey Eason is a very, very talented player. Very good player. So it's one of those things, just being honest with yourself.
And I know you guys have been sitting, but I'm going to tell you guys, like I tell the players all the time, the number one skill that any great player has, and I've been around great coaches, I'll share that, I've been around great players, the number one skill that you could tell a young player they need to learn is they need to learn how to listen. And that is the hardest skill, because in a timeout, you guys have been in timeouts before, It's not like LeBron that goes and sits over there with Tyronn Lewis writing up the plays, right? You want those kids listening, and if they don't learn how to listen in crucial situations, in the most difficult situations, you find out what kind of players you have. In the most difficult situations, you find out. And if they don't know how to listen, trust me, that's how you start delineating. As Dane said earlier, you can find out real quickly the good ones from the bad ones, the ones that don't know how to pay attention. That is a skill set. Dribbling's a skill set. Shooting's a skill set. Listening is a skill set. I live in Brooklyn, New York now. I was flying over here the other day, and I remember, because I was on the West Coast and I first started my coaching career, and I remember taking this long flight. There was a kid who remembers a kid, Tony Roten? I was at Villanova. I had once a week, this was my schedule. There was a kid, you guys know the kid, Corey Joseph in the NBA. So once a week, I would get up in the morning, I would fly all the way to Seattle, first thing in the morning. Nate Robinson, Tony Roten, I don't know why he wasn't in class. You know, Ed Haskins, let him do what he wants. But we sit there and we talk on the stairs. I leave I leave Garfield, fly to Vegas, hang out with Corey Joseph, get on the red eye, go back to Philadelphia, sleeping back at my house. I would do it once a week. And Tony, obviously, he came out on a visit to Villanova, didn't come. Probably should have, but no disrespect to the Huskies. But at the end of the day, that was I used to come, it was crazy. Like once a week, I'd be out here every single time. So when I was flying over yesterday from New York, I was like, oh my God, this trip is just nightmares. But I got a lot of miles out of it, you know, got the travel free. Anyway, back to the point, met with Ya, and we were talking. I forgot who I was recruiting. Obviously, I wasn't recruiting the kid that ended up going to UW. It was Pierre, wasn't it? The little guard. I really liked him. You know, you guys were talking about analytics earlier. He's an analytics kid. He's a kid that's analytics, like you don't see it. And jumping on analytics real quick, there was a kid that played for the Oakland Soldiers, and we had a kid at Cal. So I'm back in broadcasting, I'll tell you in a second, but I coached at Cal last year, and it was a kid who looked the part. He looked the part. He could score a little bit, right? And there was a kid that played for the Oakland Soldiers the year before. And I was saying, man, we should recruit that kid. It's just something about that kid. He reminded me of the kid, Pierre. Not saying the Pierre is that kid, but he reminded me of that kid. I said, we should recruit that kid. I'm telling you, we should recruit him. I know he's small, slight build, but he can shoot it. He's skilled. He's a leader. And those kids get overlooked all the time. So guess what happens the next year? He goes to Virginia. He starts as a freshman. And you all know what happened. He won a national championship. Not saying I'm right, but what I'm saying is that's how kids get overlooked. Because our eyes the eyes fool you every time sometimes. You got to be careful what you're looking at or what you've been trained to think what a basketball player is, and really dive and look under the hood, look at skill set. As I said before, can they pay attention? Do they know how to read a scouting report? Do they know how to call defenses? Do they have leadership skills? Like all that stuff's important, girls and boys. And you know it when you see it. You know it when you see it. You know it when you see it. So again, meeting with Yad, I say, Yad, it's just sometimes when we come together and we congregate, we do a lot of hanging out, but we don't do a lot of helping each other. And I ask every person here, what is your help bank like? Right? When you go make a deposit, what's your help bank like? Who have you helped? Who do you help when it comes to basketball? Not hanging out, not all this other stuff, but how many times do we all sit and congregate and just talk basketball? Talk strategy. We can watch LeBron. We can have our opinions on everything, but how often do we do that? He kind of mentioned a couple things about me. That's my little collage. That's when I used to be a little thinner. Y'all can see right in the middle right there. But as he said, I played at Villanova, played for, I don't know if you guys remember, I'm a little older, Rolly Massimino, one of the greatest coaches ever. I played for Rolly Massimino. God rest his soul, passed away a couple years ago. Probably the biggest upset in NCAA history still to this day, and I'm from Houston, other than Phi Slamma Jamma losing to Jim Valvano. But with the best decision I ever made, I'm from Houston, Texas, and I went to Villanova, was the best decision I ever made in my life. It changed my life, playing for Coach Massimino. Family guy, he was a mirror image of my high school coach, right? High school coach, very nice guy, mirror image of my high school coach, and I went to Villanova. It was back then, kids would play in the Southwest Conference. They would never go to Villanova, and I played in the real Big East.
I played in the Big East, the Patrick Ewing Big East, and the Dikembe Mutombo Big East, and the Derek Coleman Big East. That was a much different Big East than you guys get to see today. And it was the only conference, that's where Big Monday and all that stuff came from. So it was a great experience. And the Big East tournament was it was better than the NBA Finals. So played there, coached for 20 years. As Yaj said, I was associate head coach 4 times, right? At Vanderbilt, Pepperdine, Texas Tech, can't remember the others, too many times, but had a great opportunity to coach at 4 Power 5 teams. So I have a wealth of knowledge of college basketball. Worked for some great guys, right? Because my thing's on leadership. I worked for some great coaches. I worked for Steve Alford, who's the head coach of UCLA. I worked for Billy Gillespie. I don't know if you guys know him. He was at Texas A&M. Worked for Jay Wright, who in my opinion is the best coach in the country. And I'll show you why in a little bit. Worked for Steve Lapis, who was also Big East Coach of the Year. He coached guys like Kerry Kittles and Tim Thomas. I don't know if you guys remember those guys. So, I coached for one of the guys who, and I'll show you later, who I think is probably the best coach that I've ever worked with. His name is Jan Van Bredekoff. I worked with him at Pepperdine and Vanderbilt. His dad was Butch Van Bredekoff, who coached Wilt Chamberlain. So there are some guys I've had a chance to be privy to and picking their brains, and have learned a lot of stuff about a lot of things, but also have my own spin on things, right? So right now I'm currently writing a book. It's called The 10 Superpowers of an Effective Leader, right? Because I believe that an effective leader is a very, very, very special person, and it's a learned behavior. If there's one thing you guys can leave for this, I always tell kids every single time, responsibility, right, and accountability are learned behaviors. No one comes out of the womb with those two things. It's learned. You got to teach them, right? You have to teach them. And I'll quote different guys that I work for, and obviously Coach Massimino, my high school coach. But so you guys know the way I look at leadership and the way I look at basketball or the way I look at people. One of the guys I work for said, hey, you got one job. And I would say the same thing to you guys. And I would challenge you all. You have one job. And your number one job is to change the way they think. Change the way they think. Because you know what their parents will tell them? They're the best. You know what their girlfriends will tell them? I'm stupid. You know what their people will tell them? The pastors tell them? You're going to go to the pros. Everybody is telling them something that has nothing to do with the truth. Has nothing to do with the truth. And a Billy Gillespie would say the greatest thing you could tell them is the truth. And the truth hurts sometimes. It hurts. Right? It hurts, but you can't go wrong because they're always going to come back to you because as we were talking about analytics, the numbers will be on your side. You know, it's funny when you start doing soul searching, I know we're all coaches in here. And one of the things that I love about being a coach, and you look at different communities and you talk about, you know, analytics of this and that. We are surrogate teachers, guys. You got to understand, kids listen to their coaches more than listen to their parents half the time. You have so much influence. And we're negligent with it. We're negligent with it. I'll talk about the 2 types of leaders. Authentic leadership is the goal, right? It's the goal, authentic leadership. Now, that's my truth. What I want to instruct you guys or teach you guys to find your truth, to find your chi on leadership. Because every last one of you in here is a leader, whether you know it or not. You don't have to be the head coach to be a leader. You can lead from behind. There's a child following you. There's a coworker following you. Somebody's following you. Now, whether you want to believe it or not, or whether you think that about yourself, guess what? After today, I hope you do. After today, I hope you find that no matter who you are, you can lead. I honestly look at players like numbers now. It has changed the way I look at things. That same player I was telling you about, that player that I was looking at, I consulted for Under Armour and Adidas. So I also been an AAU coach. Right? I had a program with Under Armour and I had a program with Adidas. So I see the world on the college side at the highest level. I was the head coach at Texas Tech University. Right? Chris Beard, who's the head coach now, we work together. So I see it on both sides. High-level AAU coach, high-level high school coach. Right? It's a full contact sport. Because at the end of the day, guess who they go home to every day? The parent. So not only do you need to change the way the kid thinks, you need to change the way the parent thinks, because all they're going to do is unravel everything that you try to work for that 2 or 3 hours that you have them. So though it may be painful, it may drive you nuts, it's going to be worth it in the end, because you know what's on your side? The numbers. Why do you say that, Chris? There are 500,000 kids that play high school basketball. I'm only talking about girls. I'm sorry, ladies. 500,000 kids that play high school basketball. So freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. I would say senior basketball that are eligible to get scholarships, only 300,000. Right? Only about 300,000 are seniors of the 500,000 that play. Anybody know how many Division I schools there are at men's side? 350. 350. With an average of 3 scholarships per season. They don't just get rid of the whole roster. They only bring in about 3 guys. I'm not great at math, but 350 times 3, it's not a lot, right? It's 1,050. I said, how many kids are trying to get those scholarships? 300,000. The numbers are on your side, so you can't focus on just basketball. But guess what? 90% of them ain't going to make it to the D1 level just because of numbers. Not because it's personal, not because you have an agenda, not because you don't like them. It's just not enough room. Just like, I don't know if you guys watch Hard Knocks. You guys watch Hard Knocks? You know what they need to do? They need to do a Hard Knocks NBA. That's what they need to do. Because that's where the kids are the most delusional. Because the NBA, I don't know if you guys know, they make the most money with the new TV deals. And when you look at television, you don't, anybody, Tom Brady, right? I'm not a Patriot fan. Anybody know what sneaker company that's with him, that he represents? So think about it. So think about it right there. Tom Brady, who we say is, some people say, I'm a Cowboy fan, Under Armour. So he knew that. Tom Brady is the best. I mean, think about it. The NFL in America is the apex league. He's the best player. He's won the most Super Bowls, and no one knows that he's with Under Armour. What sneaker company is LeBron with? What sneaker company is Carmelo with? Jordan, Chris Paul. The NBA rules the roost when it comes to money, media impact, and socially cool. Culturally cool, the NBA is it. You never heard a rapper say, I'm sidelines. He always say, he never say it on getting field passes. He always says he's courtside. He always says he's courtside. Courtside, feet on the wood. No one ever say feet on the grass, right? You never heard anyone say feet on the grass, right? It's the reason why. All these kids actually think they have a chance. And I said before, as Billy Gillespie would say, tell them the truth. Here's the numbers. You put numbers in front of people. I thought Dane was going to mention one of my lines. I always say basketball players are the worst mathematicians. They don't want to see no math. You go to a parent because they've invested money in it, because they pay for training, and because this dude's supposed to be the best trainer, that means he's going to get a scholarship. But you can't tell them. But you got to give them the truth. You got to give them numbers. That's the only way. Like I said, I do TV. TV has taught me a lot. TV has taught me a lot about how I look at coaches that you guys may idolize that I think are terrible, right? That you go to their practices and they have no idea how to handle kids. And one thing about television, it allows you to look under the hood, because before you go do a game, you get to go the day before, you get to watch their practice, you get to sit in their meetings, and you go like, wow, people actually think this guy is good. That's crazy to me. Seriously. Be careful who you're following. Do your research on people. I always tell people, do your research. It's like watching CNN and Fox. Forget your political affiliation. How about do some research? We always have this saying about analytics. You can say global warming doesn't exist, but at least know why you think it doesn't exist. Don't just say it don't exist, right? I'm just trying to, it's thought process here. Thought process. Guys, quick little exercise, just humor me. I want everybody to close their eyes for a second. And I want you to think about this, because I'm going to call on a couple people. Close your eyes for a second. I want you to think about one thing. I want you to think about the worst boss you ever had. The worst boss, right? And why was he bad? Now I want you to think about the best boss you've ever had. And why was he good? Worst boss? Best boss. Now everybody open their eyes. Now, what was good about your best boss?
My best boss listened to what I had, what I brought to the table. And he acted on that.
What was bad about your worst boss?
She was transactional but thought she was transformational.
You can't be stealing my stuff. I'm just messing with you. Anybody else? Worst boss? Worst boss?
They used to sweat me about being like 10 minutes late.
Hey, being honest. Hey, be honest. Be honest. Be honest. Best boss. Best boss. I can't say it again. Encourage growth. One more. Worst boss. Undervalued. So again, this is my truth. What I want you guys to get to the point is, I want to empower. I think leadership is about empowering. I'm not, again, when I talk to a player, I'm going to treat this like you guys are my players right now, right? And I'm not saying there's one way to play. You guys have your own individual talents. What I'm trying to do is teach you how to organize your brain to deal with chaos that is the world of basketball, right? So in my world, there's two ways of looking at leadership. Transactional, right? Transactional is, hey man, dive on that loose ball. We got to win today. What's that deadline? Be in 10 minutes early. Transactional. Results driven. Period. Everybody's had that boss, right? Don't care about your feelings. Hey man, bottom line. Friday, I need that done. End of discussion. I don't care about going to lunch with you. I don't want to talk to you. Doesn't matter. I don't care if somebody died and you got a funeral. That needs to get done. Transactional. That has his place. That has its place. Short-term success, because you know what? You probably leave jobs like that, I'm telling you. Because we're human beings and not human doings, right? And a lot of us are in that space. A lot of leaders are in that space. There's a difference between it. Like, think about it. In our world today, people become leaders because it's their turn. It happens in coaching. Well, I've been doing this so many years. That guy's gone. Now it's my turn. They do nothing to earn it. They do nothing to earn it. It's just, you know what? I'm the next guy up. I've been in this business 22 years. It's my turn. Sound familiar? I'm a senior. Doesn't matter if I'm the best player. Doesn't matter if I believe in what the team culture is. It's what? My turn. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with my turn leadership. You know what I laugh about? I laugh how coaches, and I have to check myself, how we will say, you know what? What's your name? Art, you want to shoot threes? You can't shoot threes, Art. Guess what you got to do? Get your butt in the gym in the summer, right? That's what we tell them, right? You're not going to practice on my time. You don't practice during the games, right? We don't practice during the games. Get your butt in the gym. How many of us work on our game? We tell them to work on their game all the time, right? And we're talking about millennials where they're changing. Things are changing. Like if you tell somebody to go on Facebook, they'll like slap you, these kids today. Yo, man, you got to IG me. I'm like, what's IG? What are you talking about? They are constantly changing. I know kids, you can't talk to them. They'll never respond to you, but if you text them, they'll hit you back right away with a smiley face or something. The world is changing. So we can do two things. We can be mad about it, all right? Or we can thoroughly immerse ourselves in the middle of it and try to do something about it. If we care, we'll get to that. Transactional, transformative, inspiring, creativity. Sounds crazy? Influencer. It's a person right there. Well, guess what? Sometimes they're going to not meet the deadline. It happens. Guess what? You are a person that didn't make a deadline sometimes. You know how we get that high moral ground leader that acts like they never made a mistake? Then they drive you crazy. You're like, oh, so you've done everything right in your life. Because we do it in our parenting as well, right or wrong? Absolutely, right? Let's be honest. The day is what we call Honesty Day. We've got to be honest. I tell every coach, I say, if you want to do something amazing in your life, I'm going to reward you with something that you would never think that you would ever have to face. And I learned this from Jay Wright. He said the best thing you can do with any coach is put a mirror in front of him and tell him, you can lie to everybody else, but do not lie to that person that's staring back at you. Because you can't grow when you lie to that person. You cannot grow. It's impossible to grow. You know your shortcomings. You can hide them from your girlfriend. You can hide them from your spouse. You can hide them from your boys. You know, to tell them the highlights and always excuse the lowlights, but you cannot lie to that person that's staring back at you. And if you do, you're being disingenuous. And you know better than the kids, because all the kids do is lie to themselves.
Well, it don't matter if I can dribble with my left hand. What? What do you mean it doesn't matter? 80-20. 80% transformative, 20% transactional. Because there's times you got to get stuff done. Period. Ain't no hand holding, put my arms around him. Oh, it's going to be okay. Hey, man, we're not going to eat, or the light's going to be turned off if this doesn't get done. Hey, man, guess what? I need you to get in the stance and stop this guy. Like, I really need you to lock in right now. We got the gym from 4 to 6. All right? If you don't feel like practicing, get out of here and sit down. Like, there's times when you have to be that way. And there's times where that's got to be some empathy, where you understand, hey, man, this dude's mom's got cancer, man. You can't be acting like that, coach. Or I've been with coaches that will say, like, I give you guys 2 hots in the cot. I'm like, whoa. What are we doing here? 2 hots in the cot. You make $4 million a year. You can't say stuff like that. These kids are smart. They don't know that world. But I give you 2 hots in the cot. Do whatever I say. This coach is like that. Like I said, look in that mirror, everybody. Right? Look in that mirror. Here's the problem. I call it a complexity trap. You got so much stuff going on in your life. How the heck are you going to hold it together and you're listening to me say be 80-20? Because it's very difficult. You got somebody might have a sick relative, sick mother or father. You still got practice though. You still got to show up at practice. You still got to be a good coach. You can't cuss the kids out. And one of my biggest pet peeves, guys, be careful how you talk to kids. Like, we're adults, right? We're all educated. You're telling me we can't use different words? I'm not saying that you don't need to push them, but why punish them with your mouth? Because I'm going to tell you something, they never forget it. Say something negative about a woman one day, about the way she looks, and I don't care if she ends up being whatever she ends up transforming into, she ain't going to never forget it. Am I right or wrong? She will never forget it. Words are harmful. Elevate yourself. Elevate yourself. That's what you got to do as a leader, man. It's hard. It's hard because sometimes you got to put your arms around them. It's what it is. If you don't want to do it, I would tell coaches all the time. They would come and complain about, man, I can't believe I got to do this. I can't stand that booster. I this, I that. It's always I, never we, right? I. And I'll be like, hold on. You make how much a year? You want to trade spots? Because I'll do that. You know that, boss? I can do that. I don't mind going to lunch with that booster if I'm making $100,000 a month. Be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for. So we're dealing with all these different things, and you still have to go and be a coach. That's hard, man. I'm telling you, it's very difficult. Very difficult. So what I want to do is give you what I would do, or what helps me, or what grounds me, or how I find my chi. And what I would challenge you to do is do the same. So I have what I call a triangle of trust, right? A triangle of trust. This is my way of saying, you know what? This is how I'm going to deal with this. Now, you guys have seen the wooden, what do they call it, a pyramid of success? Well, here's my thing. And I would encourage all you guys to do the same thing for yourself. Some people meditate, right? Some people listen to music. This is what I do. So the bottom of the tree is always the strongest. That's where the roots are. Here's my root. Here's my root right there. I earned people's faith. I earned their affection. When I used to recruit players or parents, I would say, look, you take 1 step towards me, I'll take 99 towards you. I'll earn it. Because unfortunately, we always say, yo, I'm the boss, do what I say. That's how you think you should earn it. That's very transactional. Just do what I say. It don't matter. Just do what I say. It's not about getting to know him, what makes him tick, what's going to make him work harder, how I can motivate him, what's going on with his family, what's his birthday, when's his anniversary. Think about it. You guys had those bosses. You're just a number. Does that feel good? Well, think about how you make your players feel. How many coaches know all their players' birthdays? On a basketball team, it may be 13 players. How many you know all? I'm just saying, little small things, just, incremental stuff that you can do where you walk in, you'll be like, wow, he knew my birthday? He must think about it. He knew my birthday? Think about how kids are, how easy it is to win them over. He must really love me. Why? Because he knew your birthday? No, because he acted like he cared about him, about you. Or how about knowing their parents? Where they got married? By talking to the kids. I used to do this thing every day with the kids. I used to call it walkie talks. They used to laugh at me. Once a week for 1 hour, it would be like a psychology session. They would come in and they would pour their hearts out. And you'd be like, what? It's just once a week, right? I would tell everybody, meet with your kids once a week. It's gonna be an hour, once a week. Think about it. When you start thinking about it, once a week, just meet with them, maybe for 15 minutes. You may find out one thing that may help you win one game. Trust me on that. The next thing, lead with your heart. I said it earlier. So my number one thing is I want to earn their affection. I'm going to lead with my heart when I make decisions. We're human beings. People make mistakes, right? People don't want to not make money. People don't want to lose. People want to win. But guess what? Everybody doesn't understand how to do it. Anytime you got to be empathetic. You have to be empathetic. You got to know what it's like to walk in another man's shoes, right? So I always try to challenge myself when I make a decision, whether it's my family, whether it's the team, whether it's my friendships and relationships, do I lead with my heart when I make decisions? Yes or no? Not maybe, not great, yes or no? Stand in front of the mirror, yes or no? Chris, do you lead with your heart? I hear what you're saying. Again, we live in an imperfect world, and I don't have to be a perfect person, but I have to own my stuff, right? Everybody get that? Be proactive. How many guys listen to podcasts? How many people listen to podcasts? How many people read books? Increase your knowledge. These kids are different today. How about read some books on it? Mental illness is a big thing today, right? Read some books and make yourself better. Become the best version of yourself. Why does someone have to tell you to do that? Why should it? Think about it. You guys have the greatest responsibility. You get called coach. That is a bigger responsibility than people understand. Coach. Those kids are looking at you. What should we do, coach? What should we do? They look at everything you do. They look at the music you play in your car when they're riding with you. They're looking at how you're talking to your wife. They're watching, and you're influencing. Whether you want, Charles Barkley is wrong. You are a role model. He's wrong. I don't care what he says. He's wrong, and I told him, you're wrong. Stop saying that. You sound crazy. All right? Kids can read a scouting report. I'm not going to say what school it was, what school we were at. We had to stop doing written scouting reports. We did video scouting reports because kids, they couldn't focus. But you know what? They can watch the hell out of some videos. And guess what? There's nothing about the game that's written anyway. Is it? Anybody ever seen an NFL playbook? So when kids say they can't do math and they can't do science, they're lying. Because if you say NFL playbook, it's like this. And they got to do it on the job just like that. And in front of millions of people on national TV, they can do it. As someone said earlier, no one rises to low expectations. Set the bar high, they'll get there. Trust me. And the ones that can't get there don't belong there. You'll be better off. Last one is this. I said before, self-aware. Put that mirror in front of you. I was talking to Jay Wright one time. I forget what it was, a couple years ago. We were playing a game. And I was like, man, you need to put that kid in the game. He can help us. Put that kid in the game. I'm telling you, man, we got to beat Georgetown or where it was on the road. Put him in the game. He looked at me and says, Chris, I don't care. Because you know what? I got to look myself in the mirror. And that dude there does not represent what I represent. So the one thing I can hold is playing time. That's the one value I know that he wants over anything else. I'm not giving him that. So he ain't getting out there, and I don't care if we want to lose. Period. Self-aware. You have to be honest with yourself if you really want to be a leader. And I would encourage each one of you guys, build your own. You don't have to do it. That's what I do. I would make sure I meet somebody, I'm going to earn that dude. I'm going to make sure that dude knows he can trust me. I'm going to make sure I get to him. Now he got to call me. I'll call him. Make sure he can trust me. If something goes down between us, somebody say I said something, you know what? My bad. I'll be the first one to say, you know what, man? My bad, dog. I'm going to leave with my heart because I've been there on both sides, right? And I'm going to be proactive and I'm going to be self-aware, right? So next, table of champions. I'd encourage everyone in here. We're not perfect. Who do you lean on? That's people I lean on. Who do you lean on? I got a table of champions. Mike Loxley is the head coach at University of Maryland. We were in New Mexico together. Got the same birthday. And we have this thing in recruiting. Everybody has their own recruiting shtick, right? I happen to be a decent recruiter, I guess, but he would always tell me, you got to find a champion in the room. So there's two schools of thought when it comes to recruiting, right? And parents don't like to hear this, but you have to understand this when your kids are getting recruited. There's importance and there's influence. Everybody that's important in your life ain't influential. Your mom can be important, but she ain't calling the shots. The dad that's driving you around everywhere could be important, but the homeboy may be the guy that tell them where to go to school. You have to find the champion in the room. And a skilled coach knows how to find that. There's one of them right there on the wall right there, Lorenzo Romars. They know how to find that. You got to find a champion. Now, for me, we're talking about leadership. Once you go through your triangle of trust, I think you got to have a table of champions. You got to have people that you can lean on. I'll show you mine. Ed Pinckney, Final Four MVP, my guy. There's an issue, I'm calling him. We go back and forth. You know, he says some crazy stuff. The NBA says, shut up, you don't know. We go back and forth. Ed Pinckney, my guy. We talk about all kind of stuff. And as I'm going through this, I want you guys to think about who's at your table of champions. Steve Lapis recruited me to Villanova. Head coach on CBS Sports, does the NCAA tournament. Mentor. Not about everything, about some things. I call Steve, right? Jan Van Bredikoff, I told you before, his dad coached. He's one of the best basketball minds, period. I don't care what anyone says. I think Jay Wright's the best coach. I think this is the best basketball coach on the planet, in my opinion. He's that innovative and that smart, right? And his pedigree is his dad, who coached Wilt, who was forever. So the bottom line is, that's a guy who I idolize, right? Doesn't matter if he's not known on the national stage. Don't get fooled by the national stage. There's a lot of fluff there. Trust me. I love Phil Jackson, but if I coach Mike and Scotty, and I coach Shaq and Kobe, I might win a few games. What do y'all think? I might win. If I coach LeBron, I might win a few games. What do y'all think? Hey, anybody ever heard the name Eric Spoelstra again? What's he doing? But when LeBron was there, everybody talked about him, right? You see what they're doing to Ron Lue, right? You see what they did to Luke Walton, right? Be careful who you think about as a good coach. Paul Hewitt was a head coach at Georgia Tech. Another one. That's my sparring buddy. Anytime I got an issue, we going head to head. We fight about everything, cats and dogs, right? But we fight and we just agree to disagree on everything. But a mentor. When I was growing up, I didn't have anybody like that in my life. He provides that for me. Rolly Massimino. Till this day, even though absentee leadership, everything he says to me comes to mind anytime I'm getting ready to make a decision, because I would never make one without talking to him. Period, right? Never make one without talking to him. So even till this day, right, the number one phrase that he always used to say in my mind is, always want to be a part of something greater than yourself. Selflessness. It sounds corny, I'm telling you. But the players, if you can't preach as a coach, don't expect your players to have it. Don't expect that, because you're asking too much. And lastly, Jay Wright, best coach on the planet. I don't care what anyone says. He's the best teacher. He gets it, right? He gets it. Then had his ups and downs. If I encourage you to get his book, I encourage you. He is the best. And I'm going to tell you one thing we were always talking. I just give you a little nugget. As soon as the game is over, I'm going to give everybody here a piece of advice. As soon as the game's over, number one thing we have to do as coaches, he says, as soon as the game's over, you go talk to these guys, you talk to these guys, you talk to these guys. I'll be like, man, I don't want to go talk to them. Why I got to go talk to them? I'm ready to go home. I'm ready to do whatever. You know what he should always say? He says, you know what? As soon as the game is over, there's emotions. Everybody got that, right? There's so much stuff that so many people are going to say to them. The dad's going to be like, man, you should have got more shots. Girlfriend, I think such don't pass you the ball. The mom, I just can't stand Jay Wright with his pretty butt. You know what I mean? Like, it's all kind of stuff, right? So he would always say, make sure we're the first ones that talk to them. We're going to fill them with the stuff that we want them to have in their head. So when they say all the other stuff, it just bounces off. But you know what we do as coaches? We let everybody else get to them first. And then we try to talk to them, and what happens? What we say bounces off. It's a method to the madness. It's a method to the madness of how things are done. Who's at your table of champions? What's your triangle of trust? Build it for yourself and your table of champions. Who are the people that influence you? Because you're influencing people, so who are your super influencers? Checkpoints. I'm going to wrap it up. Reflect internally. I've talked about it. Or do you reflect internally? Right? Is there self-inventory? Do you take self-inventory of yourself? Not just wins and losses. Am I doing the right thing? Am I a good dude? Am I a good dude? Do these kids believe in me? Should they believe in me? Am I doing everything possible, right, where these parents can follow me? Parents out of their mind, I get it. But they're people too. They love their kids. Embrace challenge. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to meet with other coaches because they may be smarter than you. They win more than you. We have this saying in coaching, one day the crab, the other day the crab cake. One day the crab, next day the crab cake. The guy that wins ends up being the guy that loses. The guy that, everybody know about the tuna, Bill Parcells? Guess who used to work for him? Everybody know who used to work for him? Belichick. But I guarantee when Bill Parcells was a guy, you're looking at Belichick, oh, you'll never be nothing. Oh, really? One day the crab, next day the crab cake. All right, embrace challenge. Don't be afraid to challenge yourself. Don't be afraid to be around things differently. Some of you high school coaches, go coach AAU. If you want it to be better, stop complaining about it, go make it better. All right, you know what it's gonna take? It's gonna take your freaking time. So put your money where your Mac is and go put some time in if you want it to be better. Instead of complaining, don't complain, compete. Don't complain, compete. Transfer knowledge. Let's start sharing with each other, guys. What's wrong with that? It ain't about, share knowledge with each other. Share knowledge, don't be afraid. Make other people better. Lift as you climb. Lift as you climb. Don't be afraid to do that. That stuff drives me crazy when people don't want to make other people better. Or when people are afraid to ask if they don't know something. Well, I don't want that dude to think I'm on him, so I ain't going to ask him. You don't want to get better? So what I'm trying to shape in your head is when you start putting things together and you find some discipline in your life, you're going to start cutting some people off because it's going to crystallize the way you see things. And you're like, whoa, I thought this person was cool, but he really don't want me to get better because he tried to tell me not to come to this clinic today. You okay? And create opportunities for others. Don't be afraid to help other people. Don't be afraid to help other people. We should all be in this to help somebody else. There's nothing wrong with that. I tell people all the time, everybody in this room tries to help kids. They coach kids, they give their all. Why can't you help your buddy? Help each other. Help each other. You see some job that somebody's good at, just don't worry about looking in their pockets and how they're going to advance. Like, that person has a better chance of getting that job than me, and I know the person making the call. Let me help him. That means he's going to be a head coach for me, right? You always ask the kids to do it. Well, guess what? I know you're good, but he's a better player. He should get all the shots. We ask the kids to do all the time. We ask things of kids that we adults don't do. Am I right or wrong? All the time we ask them. And again, and lastly, authentically, it's not a position or title. Again, what I'm trying to tell you is you get your own people. These are my people. These are transformative people in my life. Right? In my life. You see, purposely, I put the picture of Rosa Parks with Martin Luther King behind her because he gets too much credit. Okay? But you got it. But I'll let you guys read and understand that. She was the one that started it, not him. All right? He was a beneficiary of it. Okay? Again, my people. Y'all gonna laugh. I'm a LeBron. I'm one of them dudes. I love LeBron. Right? He's status quo. He's gonna bucket. Transformative. Will be the best scorer. I mean, whatever. You can like Jordan all you want. I know y'all look at me like I'm crazy, but at the end of the day, I love LeBron because of what he does off the court. All right? Off the court. Forget about political affiliation. First black president ever. We know the history of this country. It is what it is. Let's keep it 100, okay? Right? There's probably only been 5 black governors in the United States history. 5. That means win the state race. This dude was not a governor and became the president, 2-term president. Amazing accomplishment. Forget about any of those we're talking about. Anybody know who that is? That's not me, by the way. Anybody know who that is? That's Barry Gordy. I want to be transformative like some of these people. I want to leave a legacy, right? I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave a legacy. She fights for women's rights like I wouldn't want to meet her in the phone booth. She's a beast, right? She's a beast. Are you motivated to lead? I want people, forget about coaching. I want people that want to be leaders, right? Because you can't always coach. Right? When you got a family emergency, that ain't about coaching. I became the head coach at Texas Tech. Jay Wright called me. I took over maybe like September. Billy Gillespie had an issue. And he says, Chris, I know you think you're John Wooden. This is a true story. He says, I know you think you're John Wooden, and I know you think you're the smartest guy in the world. But if you want to retain a job at Texas Tech, you need to show people that you have ability to lead them. Stop trying to coach people into liking you and lead them.